Chapter 592. There were more and more moon monsters, and each one had the strength of the second true spirit layer. Although Jean Luo was a heaven domain expert, filled with spirit energy and strong strength, facing this many strong monsters, it was hard to maintain the barrier for a long time, so she had to think of a way to finish this battle quickly. Void escaping. This cultivation technique Chu Tian gave Vivian had already been cultivated to the large success realm. Vivian was in the peak 7th true spirit layer, and using it, she was immune to all attacks under the heaven domain realm. She quickly charged into the dense group of monsters. The spatial dagger source spirit appeared. Vivian shouted as she exploded out with spatial energy, causing the spatial daggers to disappear from above her head. Immediately, the dozens of monsters in front of her were all stabbed in the head by the daggers. This powerful spatial energy simultaneously attacked a large number of targets, creating massive wounds that pierced through their heads. A blue imprint appeared between Jean Luo's eyebrows. The Deep Blue Emperor clan's bloodline was activated, and a wave of pure and transparent water energy was released. Instantly, it turned into a surging flood that was released. If one looked carefully, they would discover that there were tens of thousands of malevolent sharks within the flood. 10,000 shark bite. When these monsters were submerged by the flood, they were first suppressed by the powerful spirit energy and couldn't move. Then they were bitten by the fierce sharks, and large amounts of them were instantly torn to pieces. 1,000 flood dragons coiling. After all directions were swallowed by the raging flood, Jean Luo released an even more powerful Deep Blue Emperor clan secret technique. The flood once again set off waves, all of them violently stirred up. As the hundreds of thousands of flood dragons continuously circled around, they formed a huge water tornado that almost swept up all of the surrounding monsters. Hong! The waterspout exploded. Several hundred monsters were blown to pieces. Vivian revealed a look of shock. This was the Deep Blue Emperor's secret technique. It was majestic and powerful. Jean Luo was worthy of being a peak heaven domain realm expert. They're basically all dead. Vivian looked around. The moon didn't have gravity, so the water splashed in the air but didn't fall. However, this wasn't real water, it was just an illusion created by Jean Luo's spirit energy. When all the spirit energy was used up, the water automatically disappeared, leaving behind hundreds of monster corpses. A large number of monster carcasses floated in the air, but they were still twitching as if they were still alive. After a few seconds, all the wreckage suddenly melted like wax under high temperature, and flowed to the ground like water drop by drop. Wow, what's going on? Vivian had a bad feeling. Why are they all melting? This situation was too strange, and it was most likely not a good thing. Jean Luo had just used a secret technique, and her spirit power had been consumed quite a bit. If she couldn't kill these monsters, then the situation might not be good. These liquefied monsters flowed on the ground and converged with each other. Then, they reformed their bodies. One monster after another reappeared, completely unharmed. It was shocking. Vivian found that the monsters she had killed had also revived. Oh no, our attacks can't kill these things at all. The number of monsters around them had increased. Even a conservative estimate would put the number at 1,000. The two of them had never encountered this kind of strange matter before. These monsters couldn't be killed with normal methods, and if the entire moon continent was filled with these kinds of creatures, how could Miracle City survive here? When there is no other way. A voice sounded in their heads, "You two come back, don't waste your energy." Vivian revealed a look of joy when she heard this familiar voice, and her heart was filled with confidence. Miracle City couldn't contact them here, but there was a communication tower in the aircraft, so they could form a communication range in a small area on the moon. This also meant that they could only establish communication here. This is great, Big Brother Chu Tian, you're here. Chu Tian came out of the aircraft without any protection. His body had been specially modified, so even in an absolute vacuum environment without any protection, he wouldn't be injured at all. They couldn't communicate in a vacuum environment, but their divine sense could transmit thoughts. Chu Tian's divine sense was very strong, so naturally there were no problems communicating. Vivian asked in a curious voice, "How do we kill these monsters?" Chu Tian replied, "These life forms are monsters created by the divine sense of the ancient moon god. As long as the moon god's will is not extinguished, they cannot be killed." What is the moon god? The moon god is naturally a powerful ancient god. After the great ancient world shattered, this divine god fell in outer space. His body turned into the moon and his divine sense was left on the moon. Chu Tian simply explained, the moon god's divine sense has already reached the legendary unfathomable creation realm. With a single thought, he can create something out of nothing, being able to create something out of nothing. He is very strong and these monsters are actually the products of the divine sense after the moon god fell. Jin Luo said in a surprised voice, "Your meaning is that each monster on the moon is a fragment of a divine god's divine sense? Because they have the ability to create, even if they are destroyed, they can recreate themselves." Your understanding is about right. These fellows can't be killed with normal methods, unless you have the ability to destroy the entire moon. Then what should we do? Vivian found that there were more and more monsters gathering around them. According to Chu Tian's words, even the Elven King wouldn't be able to do anything. No one could destroy the divine sense of an ancient god, even if it was a fragment of divine sense. Normal attacks were useless against divine sense. As for divine sense attacks, that was like a fantasy story. The moon god was a creation god and his divine sense had already reached the creation realm. With Chu Tian's trivial vision domain realm divine sense, what qualifications did he have to fight against the moon god? The entire moon was a large source of energy. The moon monsters could absorb the moon's energy and they could continue to be born and resurrected. No need to worry, since I'm here, there will be a way. As Chu Tian spoke, a little snow-white fox sneakily came out from his clothes. This kind of vacuum without gravity made the little fellow a bit uncomfortable, but this fellow was not a normal person. Although it felt uncomfortable, it wasn't affected too much. The little fox's eyes swept over the thousands of monsters and its eyes released a green glow. It immediately jumped into the air and when it was surrounded by the sea of monsters, the little fox used its ability once again. The monsters' bodies quickly disappeared like they were evaporating, releasing a large amount of energy that was absorbed by the little fox. There were thousands of them. Each one was in the true spirit realm. Even if they were all in the first true spirit layer, when there were thousands of them, wouldn't they be comparable to a peak heaven domain expert? The little fox absorbed this much energy in one breath and its body swelled up like a balloon that was about to explode. Not only was there a lot of them, they were also of high quality. The moon was formed from a powerful and complete creation god, which also meant that everything on it was made from the power and essence of an ancient spiritual god. The little fox swallowed this much and its 4 tails were already complete, so its strength had obtained a large increase. Of course. It was just like what Chu Tian said, these monsters couldn't be killed with normal methods. Even if the little fox sucked all the energy, it would be useless because living beings didn't rely on energy, rather they relied on the divine sense fragments of the ancient spiritual god. A fingernail-sized speck of light appeared at the place where every monster was killed. It was like a firefly dancing in the air. A large amount of energy gushed out from the crystal jade-like ground, constantly reshaping and refining with the speck of light as the core. Chu Tian's lips curled into a cold smile. Flames sprayed out and turned into a fire dragon, quickly moving around the jade field. It turned into a sea of flames in just a few seconds. The divine sense fragments were burned by the netherworld ghost flame. Although they weren't destroyed, they couldn't gather any more energy. Chu Tian's eyes turned into black holes that represented swallowing energy. His arms slowly opened and the flames began to spin. The surrounding light was slowly absorbed into Chu Tian's body. How strong was the divine sense fragment of a spiritual god? Even if it contained a trace of the moon god's consciousness and spirit, it wasn't something a normal spiritual god could withstand. Chu Tian had swallowed all of these fragments into his body. Chu Tian didn't feel too uncomfortable. The ancient spiritual god had died countless years ago, and after the divine sense fragments were shattered, it had a limited effect on Chu Tian. These divine sense fragments contained quite a bit of energy. If Chu Tian could refine them all, he could easily reach the peak 9th true spirit layer, and it would be a large help to his divine sense. The moon was a treasure. Not only did it contain large amounts of energy and materials, for the little fox, Chu Tian, and the other important members of the company, this was a place where they could quickly increase their strength. The transport tower kept flashing. There were constantly people being transported over. The various Forest Alliance experts, craftsmen, and scholars all came from the transport towers and were all transported to the moon. In just a short while, there were over 1,000 people, and they immediately began to build a base. There were people. There were supplies. The Forest Alliance's base on the moon in outer space was built in just a few days. This place became the mining center and warehouse for outer space. The development of outer space not only had a large impact on the Forest Alliance, it also greatly increased the morale of the Forest Alliance members, and it also created waves on the continent. Now even some countries that hadn't heard of miracle commerce knew of this matter. The Forest Alliance's fame spread far and wide. This was a large pressure, but also a large opportunity. The Forest Alliance's performance was too eye-catching, perhaps they would be attacked by the tyrants of the continent. If they could mediate this, Miracle Commerce would use this advertisement to spread their name across the continent for the first time. Their commercial development would reach a new stage. Chapter 593. The total area of the moon was just enough to fill up the great summer country. Miracle Commerce's Black Thunder fighters would take less than an hour to circle the moon. Although it wasn't big, building a base was a very meaningful and valuable matter. The entire moon was formed from an ancient spiritual god. The moon god's skin, flesh, bones, blood, and marrow were all precious minerals of the moon. The moon god's cultivation and energy turned into a flowing energy source that took up over 90% of the moon. This was a special kind of crystal oil that was several times stronger than the high-quality silver oil currently mined on the continent. Chu Tian was equivalent to occupying several hundred large-scale oil mines. Not mentioning the Miracle Commerce's oil fields on the continent, just the moon alone was enough for Miracle Commerce to use for several hundred to 1,000 years without a problem. Pooh! The little fox dived into the sea of oil, sometimes diving, sometimes dog paddling, and sometimes doing backstroke. Although the moon didn't have any gravity, the energy liquid was absorbed and flowed, so the little fox was having a great time playing inside. To it, this sea of energy was simply filled with the most tempting nectar in the world. The little fox wished it could suck the entire sea dry. Fox, stop playing. There's another group coming, come and help. Chu Tian used his divine sense to send a message to the little fox from a distance. When it heard Chu Tian's order, the little fox jumped out. There were several hundred moon monsters coming out from the mountain peaks in all directions. There were just too many moon monsters. The moon base was being attacked, but they couldn't be killed. This was a hindrance to the expansion of the base and was a large threat to the safety of the base. It was because of this that the human and fox had stayed here for 2 weeks to clear out the monsters around the base. There was only this little this time. The little fox's eyes swept over the group of monsters that Chu Tian had attracted, and it secretly cursed in its heart, "This fox doesn't even have enough to fill the gaps between my teeth, master is becoming more and more useless." The little fox blew out a mouthful of white gas. This white gas scattered in the air and instantly enveloped all the monsters inside. It was like these monsters were soaked in a highly corrosive liquid. Their bodies began to show signs of collapsing and they all melted into nothingness. The little fox opened its mouth and swallowed everything in one gulp. Swallowing so much energy in one gulp didn't affect him at all. Compared to the first time he swallowed, his appetite was clearly much bigger. The little fox slowly landed on the ground, its 5 long tails swaying behind its back. In 2 weeks, the little fox had been eating and drinking on the moon. It had sucked dry 3 small rivers on the moon and devoured 10 to 20,000 moon monsters, which was why it was able to grow so quickly and become a 5-tailed fox. The demon fox race's abilities were directly proportional to the number of tails they had. Even Chu Tian couldn't tell how strong the little fox was right now. The little fox was very sly. She would not reveal herself easily. She would only reveal herself when the time was right. Netherworld. Chu Tian's arms released netherworld ghost flames that turned into a sea of fire to suppress the divine sense fragments. Then he activated his devouring power, turning his body into a black hole that swallowed all the divine sense fragments. Hot. It was hard to suppress his restlessness. Chu Tian felt as if a suppressed volcano was about to erupt. This was because he had swallowed too many fragments of the moon god's divine sense, causing his cultivation to show signs of improvement. A shout rang out. A powerful energy wave burst out. A few moon jade mountains were shaken to pieces. Chu Tian didn't even need to go into closed-door cultivation. He directly charged through the bottleneck and his cultivation went from the 9th true spirit layer to the peak 9th true spirit layer. I've finally increased. I didn't absorb all these divine sense fragments for nothing. Chu Tian didn't find it strange that he increased his cultivation at all. It was a natural result, so of course it wasn't a pleasant surprise. Miracle commerce was not the same as before. They had close to 100 level 3 immortal herbs and there were several dozen in the miracle gardens. If Chu Tian wanted to break through this small bottleneck, wouldn't that be as easy as turning his hand? Chu Tian didn't need to store immortal herbs because he wanted to use these immortal herbs on Yingying and the young miss. Their cultivation talent was a bit lacking, so if he didn't use resources to make up for it, it would be hard for them to keep up. Immortal herbs were hard to find treasures on the continent and they had the effect of improving one's physique, so they needed these things more than Chu Tian. As for the living immortal herbs in the miracle gardens, they were even more precious. Chu Tian could follow the heaven race's method and let the immortal herbs absorb demonic and divine energy before refining them into pills. This kind of pill could change one's body. Not only was it useful to the young miss and the others, it was also very attractive to existences like the Dragon Lord. It could even increase their strength by a level. It seems like there aren't many of these monsters around here. Chu Tian released his divine sense to scan the surrounding area. Fox, have you completed the task I gave you? The little fox shook its head to express that it didn't have a clue. Chu Tian was prepared to find a path to the core of the moon. This was because Chu Tian knew that the moon was not just a large reserve of resources, there was also an incomparably hidden treasure, the moon god's inheritance. The moon god was a powerful ancient spiritual god and a rarely seen god of creation. Even among the demons and gods, its strength was considered a peak existence. If Chu Tian could swallow the moon god's divine sense and power, he would receive large benefits. Not to mention anything else, at least reaching the heaven domain realm would be as easy as turning his hand without any suspense. Of course. He had to think about this carefully. On one hand, this was his first time here. If Chu Tian wanted to find a path to the core in this large area, how could it be that easy? Even if he found it, Chu Tian wouldn't dare go in. After all, a spiritual god was sleeping here and who knew what he would encounter inside, so he had to slowly plan everything out. Come, let's go back. Chu Tian took out a transport scroll and opened it. Although there was a transport tower back at the base, Chu Tian had a lot of money now. A transport scroll only cost a bit of the eye of the star fragment. Would the current Chu Tian care about this bit of money? A white light flashed. Chu Tian felt like the surrounding air was like warm seawater, quickly soaking him. Chu Tian took a few deep breaths and spat out all the impure air in his lungs. Although his body was strong enough to survive in a vacuum environment, it was still more comfortable on the ground. When Chu Tian walked out of Miracle City's transport hall, he found that Miracle City had become even more prosperous in just a few short days. It was probably because of the successful launch of the rocket. Miracle City's popularity had already reached its peak. The rich people of various cities all came to visit Miracle City, but they were all shocked by Miracle City's prosperity and convenience. Miracle City had received several dozen times more immigration applications than before. The experts of the large cities of the Forest Alliance, the nobles of the Kingdom Alliance, all of them wanted to obtain a Miracle City citizen card. Even if it was a small shop or a small house in Miracle City, it was an honor worth showing off to the nobles. We welcome the City Lord's return. The Miracle Commerce transport system was managed by Smart Brain. Each transport user had to complete the relevant transport procedures, otherwise they wouldn't be able to activate the transport. This ensured that the transport was more stable and also guaranteed the safety of the various cities' transport points. It was because of this. Who used the transport array at what time? The Miracle Commerce's Smart Brain Control Center would have a record. Every time Chu Tian used a transport, there would be a record. Not to mention Zero's eyes all over the city, even if there wasn't a monitoring system, Chu Tian would still be reported to Zero as soon as he came back. Zero, long time no see. Has your transformation been completed? Chu Tian knew that Zero had been in a closed state of upgrading. Since Zero had reappeared, it meant that the upgrade was complete. How are you now? That's right, the upgrade has been completed. My calculation speed is 54. 32 times faster than before, and my memory equipment has also been upgraded, being able to create a database 13. 42 times larger than before. Now I can control all changes in Miracle City with just a smart brain. Good, not bad. Chu Tian nodded. How many smart brains do you have that can calculate over 10 billion times? Miracle Bank's central smart brain has been upgraded and the other 4 forest banks are currently upgrading. Chu Tian said this to Zero as he walked out of the transport hall. When Miracle City appeared in front of him, Chu Tian was stunned by the Miracle City in front of him. This was because there were several areas of Miracle City undergoing large-scale construction. All kinds of exquisite castles and tall buildings were being built like mushrooms after the rain. Several large living areas, business areas, and entertainment areas were quickly being built. Chu Tian only found out after chatting with Zero. Meng Qinggu had signed a cooperation agreement with the giant mountain range, hiring a group of 100,000 craftsmen at a time. Now the strange and magnificent buildings in Miracle City were built by the giant craftsmen. Miracle City's population kept increasing and there were more and more people applying to immigrate. Even a normal house could be sold for over 10,000 source stones. Miracle City could earn large amounts of money from real estate. If they sold 1,000 houses, wouldn't they earn over 10 million source stones? But Meng Qinggu was strict and strict. She strictly controlled the quality of Miracle City's citizens. The people that could successfully immigrate to Miracle City were mostly people with technical backgrounds. For example, they were scholars with titles or outsiders that had contributed to Miracle City. Miracle City had the best academy on the continent and Miracle City had the best research institute on the continent, so Miracle City did not lack money at all. For the long-term development of the city, Meng Qinggu only wanted the elites. If they were outstanding, Meng Qinggu would even provide them with free buildings. Zero's tone was a lot more natural, no longer being cold and emotionless. The subterranean spider crystal had opened a new era of smart brains. This kind of powerful support tool could be used in all kinds of Miracle Commerce's equipment and production in the future. Because of its portability, it could even be used by commoners in the future. If you didn't come back, I was prepared to go to the moon to find you. Meng Yingying was wearing a silver science fiction mech suit as she walked out. She playfully blinked her eyes as she said, West Sea City has already contacted us. They have expressed their willingness to join the Forest Alliance. Chu Tian was a bit stunned. Although this matter was expected, West Sea City's decision to join meant that the alliance was complete. Other than that, the matter of what Chu Tian promised Meng Yingying, now was the time to fulfill it. Chapter 594. Why didn't the Forest's 4 giants have West Sea City? West Sea City was a division of the Deep Blue Empire. Their subsidiary cities were on the western coast, the islands, the underwater world, and etc. There weren't many cities in the forest, so their influence was a bit weaker. In terms of overall influence, West Sea City did not lose to the Savage Highlands. There was no doubt about this. This city was the most prosperous city on the western coast for several 100,000 miles. It also cooperated with the large and small kingdoms and empires. This cooperation has a very large strategic meaning. Meng Qingguo said in the emergency meeting, the Forest Alliance needs West Sea City, not only to mine the sea resources in the future, but also to expand in the future. The most important thing is that we can use West Sea City's channels to the various countries on the continent, allowing our best products and technology to enter. Everyone nodded. West Sea City was the Forest of Chaos area and the only super trading city. Among the countries that had relations with West Sea City, there were 2-3 empires, over 10 warring kingdoms, and countless large and small kingdoms. There were also many sea race tribes and countries. If Miracle City used their relationship with West Sea City, they would be able to avoid many detours. Of course, this matter has many advantages for West Sea City. No matter how strong the powers on the continent are after West Sea City, it is not as convenient as the Forest Alliance. With the entire Forest Alliance behind West Sea City, even if it was an empire-level power, they would have to think about it carefully. This was also the truth. The Big Dry Empire was already drooling over West Sea City. If West Sea City became a member of the Forest Alliance, with the support of the Forest Alliance's technology and weapons, would the Big Dry Empire dare to easily move against West Sea City? Not mentioning the other technology, the Space Gate was not something to be trifled with. Although it consumed a lot of energy, it could transport an army to any place on the continent. This was a nightmarish ability for any power. Chu Tian, Meng Yingying, Jean Luo, and Vivian were all sitting in the meeting room listening to the young Miss instructions. The Forest Alliance would only be complete with West Sea City. Otherwise, with a strong neutral power standing on the western coast, the Forest Alliance would be afraid to do anything in the sea and it would be hard to avoid friction in the future. West Sea City taking the initiative to join us is unexpected. Meng Yingying was very happy about this. We can definitely save a lot of effort. Right now West Sea City is only willing to discuss. Before this matter is settled, we can't be careless. What are you afraid of? Jean Luo is already one of us. Vivian said without thinking twice. Raw rice has already become cooked rice. Miracle City's outer space plan made Jean Luo famous. Now in the Forest Alliance and the Kingdom Alliance, there was basically no one who didn't know Princess Jean Luo, and she was very popular on the continent. Her posters were everywhere, attracting millions and even tens of millions of fanatical fans. She had already become a powerful and idolized star. Jean Luo also had a rare spiritual talent. Although the Forest Alliance was very strong, it was still very difficult to find a heaven domain level innate spiritual energy user. Jean Luo had delivered herself to her door. How could the young miss not use this kind of talent? Miracle Commerce's research on spiritual technology had always been the company's focus, but they lacked someone with high attainments in the spiritual domain to take the helm. With Jean Luo's current popularity, it would be a pity if she didn't endorse the company's new product. Jean Luo had already become one of the high-level executives of Miracle Commerce. She was mainly in charge of developing and promoting spiritual products and services. Jean Luo had already become a high-level executive of Miracle City and her fame had spread all over the world. How could West Sea City not know of her? Jean Luo would become West Sea City's city lord sooner or later. Jean Luo didn't want to go back after staying in Miracle City for half a month, so West Sea City's people couldn't help feeling anxious. The Forest Alliance's fast development was clear to all, covering several kingdoms and several hundred forest cities, including underground and outer space. Whether it was population, territory, or resources, the Forest Alliance had the potential to become an empire-level power. The Deep Blue Empire no longer existed. West Sea City needed to find a backer for themselves. Why didn't they join the Forest Alliance? At least the Forest Alliance treated each member equally. This was much more reasonable than becoming a vassal of a large empire. But with Meng Qingwu's personality, she wouldn't relax until the last step. She immediately arranged people. I hope that everyone here can go to West Sea City. It's best if we can directly build the transport tower and space warehouse. Relax. I will convince Grandma Bo Xia. Jean Luo said without even thinking, this matter will definitely not be a problem. There's nothing going on in the city recently. Chu Tian placed his hand on Yingying's shoulder. I'll bring you out to the sea to play. You can also taste the West Sea seafood. Meng Yingying's pretty face turned a little red. Can you be a bit more serious? Boss, I want to go too. Big brother Chu Tian, there's me too, there's me too. Vivian and Nan Gongyun were two fun people. Naturally they were very passionate about this matter. It wasn't easy for Chu Tian to find the time to go on a date with Yingying, but these two light bulbs had to follow him. Forget it, even if they were light bulbs, they were beautiful light bulbs, they wouldn't ruin the scenery. Alright, we'll have fun on the West Sea this time. Chu Tian's group of 3 were already discussing how to play, completely throwing their work to the side. This made Meng Qingwu feel very helpless. Miracle City's people, which one of them didn't respect her? Even if it was the active Nan Gongyun or the willful little Princess Vivian, they were all like this. This fellow had made everyone lax as soon as he came. Meng Qingwu gave a few soft coughs. I'm already prepared, let's immediately set off. Chu Tian looked at the young miss and said, Young miss, you should also come with us. Me? How can I go? Meng Qingwu rolled her eyes at him and said in a soft voice, How could I easily leave Miracle City? Don't joke around. The young miss was the heart and brain of Miracle City and Miracle Commerce. There were countless things waiting for her to do every day. There were countless tasks and tasks for her to take care of. The Forest Alliance's large and small matters were all placed on her shoulders. How could she leave? No, no. Chu Tian was unhappy as he grabbed the young miss. Don't forget, I am the big boss. I order you right now, take a 7-day break and play with us. Right, elder sister will play with us. Meng Yingying instantly raised her hands in agreement. She was clearer than anyone else on how hard it was for her elder sister and no one could take away her elder sister's right to live. Therefore, she was very satisfied with Chu Tian's decision. This fellow who was the chairman could finally display a bit of his role. Nan Gongyun also said, That's right, with Zero in the city, what can happen? Even if there is something that can't be solved, Zero can contact elder sister from a distance. Vivian also joined in the persuasion, We've been so busy, we've never taken a break before. Jean Luo was a newcomer, so she was a bit confused. Meng Qingwu helplessly begged with a bitter smile, Can I teleport over after you finish building the transport tower in West Sea City? I have a lot of work to do, I really don't have time to take a 7-day break. No. Chu Tian had a rare strong attitude, this is the chairman's order. Meng Yingying also said, Elder sister, we'll take the Black Thunder Fighter, how long will that take? It won't even take half a day, don't be afraid. At worst we'll just ask Sir Elven King and Sir Cenarius to help us look after the house. Meng Qingwu couldn't do anything to Chu Tian, alright, just this once. Yay! Meng Yingying jumped 3 feet high. She was even happier seeing her elder sister take a break than her own. She immediately grabbed Meng Qingwu, Come, we'll change our clothes and immediately set off. This kind of serious mission. Chu Tian had turned it into a trip. They drove a fighter and set off from Miracle City. After a few hours, they arrived at the beautiful coast. When Jean Luo appeared in West Sea City, all of West Sea City was stirred. Your Highness Princess Jean Luo is back. Your Highness, you really are too amazing. We secretly bought a video projector from the Forest Alliance's merchants and we all saw the scene of you riding the rocket with the Elven Princess. Your story has already spread through West Sea City, you truly did an incredible thing. Jean Luo wasn't high profile in West Sea City normally, and many middle and lower class people didn't even know of the existence of the mermaid princess. After Miracle Commerce spread the news, almost everyone knew of Jean Luo's princess identity. Especially the mermaid sisters who had a good relationship with her. They looked at Jean Luo with eyes filled with worship. Jean Luo went out for a month, and when she returned to West Sea City, she had already become West Sea City's hero. Not only did she reach the moon, she was also one of the main people in charge of the rocket project. How could people not worship her? Jean Luo was also very proud. Don't just talk to me, these are people from Miracle City. They are the City Lord Chu Tian, the Vice City Lord Meng Qingguo, the Vice City Lord Vivian, the Production and Resource Minister Meng Yingying, and the Military and Ammunition Minister Nan Gongyun. They are all important people in Miracle City, and they came to our West Sea City to discuss an alliance. Really? So it's City Lord Chu Tian. Even City Lord Meng Qingguo came. Our West Sea City's face is too big. Isn't this little Princess Vivian? She is the elven princess who rode the rocket with our princess. West Sea City's enthusiasm far surpassed everyone's imagination. Although West Sea City wasn't in their sphere of influence, West Sea City was the center of the forest of chaos. Not only were they well informed, many of Miracle City's products were sold here, so people were very familiar with the large characters of Miracle City. Miracle City came to discuss an alliance, which made the West Sea City citizens filled with pleasant surprise and anticipation. Chu Tian said with a smile, "Young miss, do you see this? This is the foundation of the masses, this is the will of the people. I think we should advertise it and let the entire city know of our Miracle City's benefits. If Bo Sha still makes it hard for us not to agree, that would be going against the citizens." Meng Qingguo snappily said, "Save it." Chapter 595. West Sea City being known as the most beautiful city in the Forest of Chaos was not a baseless rumor. Almost every person that came to West Sea City would be shocked by its beauty. The elves were a race with very high standards of beauty. But compared to the reserved elves, the mere people were very passionate and romantic, being very expressive. West Sea City was a city ruled by the mere people, so naturally it was filled with the exotic atmosphere of the mere people. It made the Meng Qingguo sisters, Vivian, and Nan Gongyun who came here for the first time feel amazed. Chu Tian was not in a rush to visit Bo Sha when he came to West Sea City, rather he used a very high-profile method to show off in West Sea City, giving large amounts of gifts and benefits to the West Sea City citizens. Miracle City had been in the limelight recently, and with Chu Tian causing trouble everywhere, most of the West Sea City citizens knew that Chu Tian came to West Sea City to discuss cooperation. A mermaid looked at Chu Tian in anticipation and said, "Will you build a theater in West Sea City?" "Of course we will." Chu Tian waved his hand, "I'm prepared to build 10-20 of them, opening them to the beautiful mere people for free. I'm also prepared to build a broadcasting station in West Sea City, excavating the artists of the mere people, letting the beautiful songs of the mere people spread across the continent." The mere people's eyes popped out when they heard this. Chu Tian continued to brag, "These are just small benefits. We're prepared to build transport towers in West Sea City, letting every merperson enjoy the convenience of transport. Other than that, we're prepared to build the Miracle Shopping Center and the Space Warehouse, letting every West Sea City citizen live 10 times richer lives than they do now." The mere people were all stunned. "Are you telling the truth?" A mermaid girl said in doubt, "You wouldn't be lying to everyone, right?" "Why would I lie to you?" Chu Tian pinched the little girl's face. "I'll tell you, Her Highness Princess Jean Luo is not only participating in the outer space plan, she is also a high-level member of Miracle Commerce. She is participating in an even more important research, and I believe she will be able to create even more incredible things in the future." "Wow, Princess Jean Luo is actually this great?" Chu Tian loudly said, "This cooperation between West Sea City and Miracle Commerce is very important. We have to make sure it goes smoothly no matter what, isn't that right?" "Yes, yes, yes." Chu Tian continued to say, whoever obstructs our alliance is going against West Sea City and Princess Jean Luo. Everyone must take action to support the establishment of the alliance. Once West Sea City becomes a member of the Forest Alliance, who on the continent would dare bully you? Everyone nodded in agreement. City Lord Chu Tian was right. This cooperation was too important. Jean Luo came over at this time and said, Grandma Bo Sha is waiting for everyone in the palace, please head over immediately. Everyone, wait for my good news. Chu Tian waved goodbye to the West Sea citizens. This spread from 1 to 10, 10 to 100. The entire West Sea city knew that Chu Tian had come. Chu Tian really did not believe that Bo Sha would still stubbornly refuse this cooperation that was clearly beneficial to them. Since he didn't know what was good for him, he had to consider the public opinion. The mermaid palace was luxurious, but it was not vulgar. The mermaids singing lingered around the palace, making people feel like they were in a dream. Everyone giving me face by coming to West Sea City, this city lord is honored. Bo Sha's eyes swept over Chu Tian's group, we have a small misunderstanding, I hope City Lord Chu Tian won't take it to heart. A small matter, I've already stopped taking it to heart. Chu Tian directly said, we're about to become one family, right? Young miss. Bo Sha, you've made a very rational decision this time. West Sea City joining the Forest Alliance has many advantages and no disadvantages. I'm a person who doesn't like to drag things out, it's better to directly sign the alliance agreement and save us some precious time. Bo Sha slightly knit her brows. She only said they were discussing this matter, she hadn't completely agreed yet. It was fine if this fellow Chu Tian was showing off everywhere, but now he was saying this, he simply didn't consider Bo Sha at all. But West Sea City joining the alliance was inevitable, so Bo Sha couldn't stop it or reject it. She couldn't reject it in front of Chu Tian, right? The Forest Alliance was like the sun in the sky right now. Bo Sha was thinking of how to obtain more benefits and privileges in the alliance. The best way was to marry Miracle City, letting Jean Luo marry Miracle City's city lord Chu Tian. With Chu Tian's position in the Forest Alliance, the mermaids would definitely receive special care in the future. That's right, City Lord Bo Sha, I want to introduce someone to you. Chu Tian suddenly stood up and said, casually hugging Meng Yingying beside him, this is my fiancée Meng Yingying, we've known each other for almost 2 years now. I'm prepared to give her a wedding that will shake the entire continent and the location will be West Sea City. I think City Lord Bo Sha won't reject this, right? Meng Yingying's face instantly turned red. She had just casually said it, but she never thought that Chu Tian would take it seriously. The most important thing was that Meng Yingying knew what kind of conflict Chu Tian had with Bo Sha. For Chu Tian to say it in front of Bo Sha like this, he simply wasn't giving City Lord Bo Sha any face. Wah, really? Nangong Yun didn't hide the envy and jealousy on her face at all. Yingying, you little girl, you're about to marry boss, why didn't you tell me? Vivian also nodded and said, Big brother Chu Tian's wedding will definitely be known by the entire world and West Sea City will be famous because of it. This is a very good publicity opportunity for West Sea City. Bo Sha gave a few soft coughs. Chu Tian took the initiative. This marriage matter, she couldn't mention it anymore. City Lord Chu Tian's romance, it will definitely be a good story. Bo Sha jumped over this topic, let's first talk about the matter of the alliance. They were finally returning to the main topic. City Lord Bo Sha doesn't need to worry about anything. A mature and magnetic voice rang out. Meng Qinggu stood up and said, the Forest Alliance is unstoppable, the earlier West Sea City joins, the more opportunities we will have. If West Sea City keeps hesitating, I'm afraid we'll lose our current advantage. The young miss was neither servile nor overbearing. Whether you want to join or not, it's up to you, I won't beg you. Miracle City indeed had this kind of confidence. The Forest Alliance was becoming stronger and stronger, but your West Sea City was still putting on airs, they really didn't understand the situation. Although West Sea City would be a large help to the Forest Alliance, even if West Sea City didn't join, could they shake the Forest Alliance? What a joke! The four giants, the Purgatory World, and the Subterranean World, they were all part of the Forest Alliance. Even if your trivial West Sea City was dissatisfied with the Forest Alliance, you couldn't do it alone. This must be Miracle City's Vice City Lord, young Miss Meng Qinggu. Bo Sha's attitude was calm and natural. I've long heard of your name and seeing you today, you really are extraordinary. This world already belongs to you young people, this old one was just a defeated general of the Deep Blue Empire. Now that I'm old, I don't have any goals. I'm content in a corner and free, that's enough. Although joining the Forest Alliance is beneficial, there will be some restrictions. Moreover, the Forest Alliance is aiming for the world, so it will inevitably bring West Sea City into the struggle for hegemony, so you have to properly consider this. The meaning behind her words was, "What benefits are you giving me?" Meng Qinggu guessed that Bo Sha would say this, so she didn't write a random check. She directly asked, "What does the City Lord want?" "There's no harm in saying it." City Lord Bo Sha slowly said, "According to what this old one knows, the elves, spirit beasts, giants, and giant dragons have already opened their own banks. Now they control the wealth of hundreds of millions of people in the 100 forest cities and have begun to spread to the kingdoms. It can truly be said to be flourishing. The Mer people are a large sea race, their reputation, and rallying power are all outstanding. Miracle City is willing to help the Mer people establish their own bank. Although the Mer people started late and can't compete with the Elven Bank or the other banks on the continent, the Mer people are targeting a different area. You have a natural advantage in the sea race's area of influence." Bo Sha slowly nodded. Bo Sha had been studying Miracle City all this time and the bank had a large attraction. If Miracle Commerce supported West Sea City in establishing the Deep Blue Bank, it would be beneficial to the Merpeople's expansion in the sea region. In the future, they could use a new method to revive the Deep Blue Empire in the Western Sea. Bo Sha had spent most of her life in the Deep Blue Empire, so rebuilding the Deep Blue Empire was a dream. If they opened a bank now, Miracle City wouldn't agree, so they couldn't open it. Meng Qingwu's words allowed West Sea City to obtain a bank license. This would become more and more precious in the future. West Sea City would be the first power to establish a sea region bank on the continent. It was enough for them to take the lead for a long time. Bo Sha then said, "West Sea City is the most prosperous trading city on the west coast, controlling the shipping routes of several large and small kingdoms and even warring kingdoms. It is the largest trading center on the west coast with billions of people on the continent and sea. The reason why West Sea City can have its current prosperity is all because of the shipping trade. If we become a member of the Forest Alliance, how can the Forest Alliance guarantee West Sea City's benefits? If West Sea City had the advantage of being a main trading center on the west coast, Miracle City had the advantage of spatial transportation and would control the continent's commerce in the future. If the Forest Alliance was established and Miracle City used the road West Sea City had paved to develop, how could West Sea City compete with Miracle City in the future? Miracle City is willing to cooperate with West Sea City, opening the Space Warehouse and the Miracle Shopping Center. We will also support West Sea City's current business network, creating a sea, air, and space transportation network. What Miracle City has, West Sea City will have. We are in a cooperative relationship, we won't take advantage of technology to take over." Such boldness. Bo Sha looked at Meng Qinggu and a look of admiration flashed in her eyes. "Miracle Commerce has a city lord like you, no wonder they could go from a nobody to a large power in the Forest of Chaos in just a short 2 years. This wasn't something anyone could do. Miracle City could completely replace West Sea City, but Meng Qinggu didn't do this. This was inconceivable to normal people, but it was completely understandable from Miracle Commerce's point of view. Since they were using Miracle Commerce's technology and Miracle Commerce's channels, Miracle Commerce didn't care about earning a bit of profit. West Sea City helped Miracle Commerce open their channels, what wouldn't Miracle Commerce earn more than this? West Sea City could do whatever they wanted, Miracle Commerce wouldn't steal the market with them. Meng Qinggu said to Bo Sha, "As for Jin Luo's identity, we are already clear on it. Jin Luo has already become a high-level executive of Miracle Commerce, and Jin Luo and the Mare people have an innate spiritual energy. This is a very rare talent for Miracle Commerce. We will use Princess Jin Luo and attract more Mare people into the company. In the future, the Mer people's position in the alliance will be comparable to the elves." The young miss could read minds. She was very clear on what Bo Sha was thinking. Why was Bo Sha in a rush to marry Jin Luo to Chu Tian? That was because Bo Sha knew she didn't have much time left, so she wanted to find a backer for West Sea City and the Mare people. Meng Qingwu's method was without a doubt a better choice. The Mare people were a very rare race because there were many people with innate spiritual energy. The Mer people's singing often caused the most experienced captains to get lost because of their spiritual energy interference. Miracle Commerce couldn't just have the flower fairies to create the spiritual world, so the Mare people were an important addition. What worries did Bo Sha have? Since City Lord Meng has said it like this old lady has nothing else to say. Bo Sha stood up and gave a solemn bow to Meng Qinggu. "Our Mare people are a hospitable race. This old lady has already prepared a banquet in the palace. It definitely won't disappoint everyone." Ha, ha, ha. Chu Tian found that with the young miss here, there was no chance for him to interrupt. He could only give a few loud laughs. We'll experience the Mer people's enthusiasm. Chapter 596. Miracle City didn't capture a single attached city, didn't expand their territory, and didn't start a war. In this situation without bloodshed, they only spent around a year to control the large forest of chaos. It had to be said. This was a miracle. Miracle City didn't control a single area, but it surpassed the military might of 1,000,000 soldiers. Whether it was the elves, the spirit beasts, or the sea race, when they were used to Miracle City's products, used to teleportation, and used to spatial transportation, they were already a part of their lives and couldn't be abandoned. Especially the Elven Bank, the Giant Dragon Bank, and the Deep Blue Bank. They were all managed by Miracle City's smart brains, and the source stones and treasures were all stored using Miracle City's technology. If Miracle City disappeared, it would be hard to estimate the losses they would suffer. This kind of seemingly relaxed ruling method would become more and more ingrained into their bones with time. In the future, no matter if there was a political turmoil or a change of dynasty, it wouldn't have anything to do with Miracle City. They would still need to use banks, communication systems, and smart brains. As long as they couldn't leave Miracle City would always be able to earn money, gathering all the wealth and resources together. Of course, this kind of cooperation was a win-win situation, and only a win-win situation would have a long life. These cities and countries would become richer and stronger because of Miracle City. West Sea City had officially become a member of the Forest Alliance, and the 18 attached islands, seabed, and coastal cities had all joined the Forest Alliance. Chu Tian didn't have to worry about anything else. There were no powers in the Forest of Chaos that could threaten the Forest Alliance. As for the empires on the continent, Chu Tian wasn't worried about this at all. Perhaps these powers were stronger than the current Forest Alliance in terms of military might and background, but the emperor was far away. Even if Chu Tian provoked them, what could these emperors do to Chu Tian? Chu Tian asked for a luxurious yacht and took all the beauties out to play. From the beautiful Crystal Bay to the distant sea, they passed several large islands. There were West Sea cities, attached cities on the islands, and there were several underwater cities. Each city was filled with a foreign style. This was something that could never be seen on the continent, in the forest, or anywhere else. When Chu Tian brought the beauties out, West Sea City was bustling with activity. It didn't take long for a transport tower to be built in West Sea City. Miracle City sent over large amounts of craftsmen and scholars to create other facilities for West Sea City. A few days later, the cell phones in West Sea City could be used normally. Miracle City's communication technology was built on the foundation of magnetic sound and magnetic image. In the past 2 years, it had been upgraded several times. The signal was stronger and had a wider coverage. Although it was not enough to communicate with the underground world or beyond the heavens, it was already quite perfect in the normal regions of the continent. Miracle City's cell phones had been continuously upgraded and now they had very powerful functions. Not only could they communicate, take pictures, and receive audio, they even had a complete operating system that could be used for shopping, sending messages, and etc. This was just the beginning. After West Sea City was covered in the basic communication network, Miracle City's engineers began to build a giant space warehouse for West Sea City because West Sea City would become the trading center of the Forest Alliance that was second only to Miracle City, so of course they needed a strong logistics system. The Miracle Shopping Center was already set up. Bo Shah already couldn't wait to expand the Miracle Shopping Center to all the cities that traded with West Sea City. West Sea City would be the main agent for the entire region. Not only would they be responsible for building the platform for Miracle City, they would also be able to create their own channels. For example, Miracle City's popular products like canned food, radios, phonographs, cameras, cell phones, as well as various pills, talismans, or the leather and herbs West Sea City bought from the forest, as well as the pearls from the deep sea, and etc. They could all be sold through their own warehouses. This would be an incomparably large market. In the forest, in the sea, in the mountains, underground, and in the sky, large amounts of materials were very cheap. Once they were sold to various countries, the price would increase by several dozen times. The more profitable materials could be directly transported through the space warehouse. The less profitable materials that were in large demand, West Sea City could use the space warehouse to collect them and then ship them to various cities. In short, West Sea City wouldn't just be a trading center in the future, it would also have the chance to become the largest wholesale market on the West Coast. With West Sea City's connections and channels in several countries, they could quickly enter these places. This was enough for West Sea City to make a lot of money. The Sea Race all aimed at this business opportunity. The Miracle Shopping Center had just been established and the large and small Sea Race tribes all applied to open stores, joining the entrepreneurial army. This was such a large matter. How could the other places in the alliance not know about it? Among the several Kingdom Alliance members, there was a small country called the West Chu Kingdom. The West Chu Kingdom was a kingdom where humans and spirit beasts lived together, but humans were the main ones. The ratio of humans to spirit beasts was 3:2. The West Chu Kingdom didn't have any rare materials, so it was a very poor country. It couldn't even compare to southern Xia in the past. When the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom invaded, they swept through the country in 2 weeks. In the next 5 years, the West Chu Kingdom became a vassal of the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom, making the already poor West Chu Kingdom even worse. Almost all of their harvests and taxes had to be given to the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom and the West Chu citizens didn't have any freedom at all. They were like slaves under the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom. It was most likely happiness after extreme sorrow. This long 5 years of darkness actually suddenly ended. The Eagle ruler was killed in contact with the Three Kingdom Alliance and the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom announced their surrender. Under the pressure of Miracle City and various rebellions, the vassals that had been oppressed for many years all regained their freedom. The West Chu Kingdom was one of them. After the West Chu Kingdom regained their freedom, they joined the Kingdom Alliance led by the Great Zhou country along with the other 14 kingdoms. The West Chu Kingdom was a small country with poor resources, but because it was connected to the Great Zhou country, the West Chu Kingdom became one of the first kingdoms to benefit. The West Chu Kingdom established the Miracle Shopping Center. If the West Chu citizens needed any pills, they could directly buy them from the Miracle Shopping Center. The Miracle Shopping Center was established, allowing the poor West Chu Kingdom to quickly develop. Have you heard? The forest has recently allied with another giant. Nonsense, how could I not know? That's Princess Jean Luo's West Sea City. It was a border city of the West Chu Kingdom. The entire city was made of yellow stone and the surrounding 1,000 miles was made of stone. There wasn't a single blade of grass, water was sparse, and sand was blown all year round. It could be considered a barren land. But in this kind of place, there were people who recognized Jean Luo. There was no lack of fanatical worshippers. Luhi was the young miss of a small noble family in this small city. Her family was a medium-sized family before the 5 years of darkness, but now most of them were dead or in exile. There were only around 100 people left. It was simply a small power that couldn't even be compared to a sesame seed. West Sea City joined the alliance. Luhi used her precious radio to hear this news in her room. She immediately revealed a wild look of joy as she took out her cell phone from her pocket. Although this cell phone wasn't expensive, for a border town of a small West Chu kingdom, it was a very luxurious item. Because it wasn't very popular, normal people didn't have one. This was Luhi's 20th birthday and her father had brought it back from the main city as a present. Luhi naturally treated it like a treasure. After she opened the cell phone, she immediately opened the Miracle shopping center. There were too many products in the Miracle shopping center and the content on the cell phone was very limited. She searched for a while and finally found a store in West Sea City. Green spirit coral, that's it. Luhi found a kind of herb. Father's old illness can be treated with this herb. Luhi directly used the cell phone to buy it. This herb wasn't cheap and the small city didn't have a Miracle shopping center, so she couldn't pay for it. Unless she went to the main city, it would be too troublesome. No problem. It could still be solved. Because Luhi was considered a small noble, the Lu family's information was stored in the kingdom's database. The cell phone was also bound to Luhi's alliance identity card. She had a clean background and her family situation was good, therefore she could borrow money from the bank. She could pay with the bank's money first and then pay it back later. Luhi chose the Elven Bank because the Elven Bank had the lowest interest rate. Luhi's application was sent to the Elven Bank and the bank's super smart brain analyzed the data, believing that Luhi met the requirements for the loan. Because the amount wasn't large, there was no need for a manual review and the source stones were quickly sent out. It didn't even take 10 minutes. Luhi filled in the address and bought the herb. At noon on the second day, a small airship from the main city appeared above the city. Luhi and a large group of people were already waiting at the designated location. The small airship was definitely something from Miracle Commerce. The airship was transporting the goods bought by the small city from the Miracle shopping center. Luhi. A worker picked up the exquisite box. When he saw the name written on it, he immediately shouted out, "Where is Luhi?" "I'm here." Luhi raised her hand in the crowd. After her identity was verified, she took the item and happily ran home. This was goods sent from the incomparably far West Sea City. Luhi would never be able to go that far in her life, but thinking about how the box was still on the beautiful Crystal Bay yesterday and now it had flown tens of thousands of miles to a small city on the West Chu Kingdom's border, if it was before, she wouldn't have dared to think of something like this. Luhi opened the box and took out the herbs one by one. Whether it was the quantity or the quality, they all surpassed her expectations. It really was worthy of being something from the West Sea. It was truly cheap. If she bought this sea herb from a traditional seller, it wouldn't be strange for it to be over 100 times more expensive. After all, the West Chu Kingdom was an inland kingdom, it was too far from the sea. What is this? Luhi found that there was a small box in the large box. She didn't remember buying anything else. Could it be that the West Sea City mermaids made a mistake? When Luhi opened the box with a curious heart, her eyes instantly popped out. The entire box was filled with dazzling pearls. West Sea 7-colored pearls, West Sea 7-colored pearls. This was not just a herb, it was a top-grade luxury item. Its value was something Yuhi could not imagine. It could be said that any one of these pearls in the box was worth more than Yuhi had bought this time. The value of the entire box even surpassed her family's wealth. This was definitely a windfall from the heavens. Yuhi found that there was a small note at the bottom of the box. The note was written in non-standard human language, "Thank you for supporting the mermaids. Because you are our first customer, these West Sea pearls are for you as a souvenir. Yuhi's expression froze. Souvenir? Perhaps, in the hands of the rich and powerful mermaids, these pearls were just regular pearls that were not rare at all. But for Yuhi, who lived inland and was born in a small family in a small city in a small country, a casual gift from the mermaids was enough to make her entire family several times richer. Chapter 597. West Sea City. The Miracle Commerce Platform was officially established. In just a few days, the lives of the West Sea City citizens had completely changed. West Sea City was the sixth largest city in the Alliance. Although it started later than the other cities in the Eternal Forest, West Sea City had advantages the other cities didn't have. The Eternal Forest, the Savage Highlands, the Giant Mountain, and the Dragon's Ridge were all too closed off. West Sea City was the only city in the Forest of Chaos that was open to the outside world. The 20 land and sea countries of the West Sea all used Crystal Bay as a transit point. West Sea City itself could absorb large amounts of resources, and now that it was connected to the Forest Alliance, it was much easier to transport resources and materials. This brought large amounts of resources to the Forest Alliance, and they could export the Forest Alliance's resources to the land and sea countries that West Sea City cooperated with, greatly increasing the economic prosperity of the entire region. It was because West Sea City had a strong business atmosphere. Now that there was a good chance to become rich, how could the citizens let it go? Large amounts of mere people and sea race, with their families or tribes as units, established their own companies and started their own businesses. West Sea City had just joined the Forest Alliance and the various facilities weren't complete yet, but it was already like a raging fire. Of course there were people who liked doing business, and naturally there were people who didn't. The young girl Yugu was a very normal one among the millions of mere people. Yugu had a very normal birth among the mere people. Her father was just a small officer in Crystal Bay. Her cultivation talent was very normal, only reaching the 7th awakened soul layer. If there was anything to be proud of, it would be that Yuji's appearance was not bad among the beautiful mere people. Other than that, Yugu had a deep talent for music, having invented several musical instruments and personally writing many songs. But what use was that? It wasn't like she could eat them. Although West Sea City had good benefits for the mere people, and even if Yugu didn't do anything, she wouldn't starve to death. But Yugu had her own ideals since she was young. She didn't want to live her life in obscurity. Work hard on cultivation. Yuji's talent was average and her independent cultivation had reached its limit. If she wanted to reach a higher realm, she could only use large amounts of resources and materials. This was not something that Yuji's family could do. Start a business? Yugu wasn't interested in this, and she didn't have enough capital or connections. On this day, two strangers came and turned Yuji's life upside down. The two visitors were actually elves, one male and one female. The male was tall and handsome and the female was mature. From the aura they released, they were at least experts in the 7th true spirit layer. Yuji's circle was very small. She had never come in contact with these kinds of people before, not to mention two elves. Are you Miss Yugo? Let me introduce myself first. The male elf revealed a gentle smile and said, I'm called Aubersen and this is Aeldis. We were originally elven elders of the Tree of Life tribe and have now established the Life Culture Art Chamber of Commerce. Yugo was surprised. The elves have also started to open a chamber of commerce? Both of them were powerful elven elders who had lived for hundreds of years. Who would have thought that even the inflexible elves would start their own businesses now? Yugo was still a little confused. What can I do for you too? Aubersen suddenly revealed a faint smile. Our Chamber of Commerce is a cultural chamber of commerce, focusing on the film and music industries. Our films have been shown in over 50 cities of the Forest Alliance and have received very good responses and returns. We have released 3 elven records and have sold over 300,000 magnetic sound discs in all the major cities. The merpeople's songs are famous in the world, and we've heard that young Miss Yugu has talent in this area, so we want to invite you to sign a contract with our Chamber of Commerce. The elves had come from far away. They actually liked her musical talent, so they came to find her to sign a contract. Our Chamber of Commerce is one of the largest entertainment chambers of the elves. Not only is our production not weak, we are also cooperating with the Miracle Broadcasting Station and the Elven Broadcasting Station. Albersen continued to say, we have obtained great results in the Forest Alliance and have recently begun to expand into the Kingdom Alliance, releasing records and holding concerts. In the future, we can borrow the Merpeople's connections and channels to go to the Western Sea countries. This is a good chance, I hope you can consider us. Aeldis was a cold and mature elf. She had been silent from beginning to end, but she took the initiative to say, if you are willing, please contact us as soon as possible. This is our communication number. Yugu said without even thinking, there's no need to think about it, I'm willing to join. Where could she find such a good thing? Yugu liked playing with instruments and writing songs, but this was just a personal hobby and had never brought her any profits. Now that there was such a good chance, how could she miss it? Yugu was a person who didn't care about anything when her head was hot. She immediately left a letter at home before gathering her equipment and leaving with the two elves. Albersen and Aeldis were the elders of the Tree of Life elven tribe. They were the first elves to come in contact with Chu Tian, so they were greatly influenced by Chu Tian, especially Aeldis. The last thing she regretted was that she had missed a good opportunity. If she had agreed to Chu Tian's conditions and released Chu Tian would have owed her a large favor. Aeldis had even laughed at Chu Tian, saying that he had plucked the stars from the sky. In the end, that joke had become a reality. Chu Tian had created over 10 outer sky mines and was truly mining the stars. Of course, these matters were already in the past. Although she felt it was regretful, there was nothing she could do about it. At least she could properly grasp her current life. After the Eternal Forest and Miracle City united, Vivian returned to the Tree of Life tribe. Under Vivian's instigation, Albersen and Aeldis resigned as elders of the Tree of Life tribe and established this company. Not only did Vivian invest in the company, she also brought her good friends Meng Yingying and Nangong Yun to invest. The Life and Culture Company had already become one of the important companies supported by the elves. Movies, music, and culture, they all had a market in any period. Whether it was the influence on the elves, the influence on the continent's culture, or the commercial benefits, they all had a large value. Albersen brought Yugu to a special recording place in the company. Young Miss Yugu, please sing a few songs and let us see the effect. Yugu was a bit nervous, all right. The Merpeople were known as the race that was best at singing on the continent. It was said that the Merpeople often sang on isolated islands and straits. Their songs could guide the sea creatures, even making experienced captains lose their way. This kind of magical song was something that could only be encountered in the sea. Because of Miracle Commerce's magnetic sound technology, the Merpeople's songs could be recorded by magnetic sound discs. It wouldn't take long before the entire continent would be able to listen to the Merpeople's heavenly song. Yugu gradually entered the mood. She picked up the microphone and gently sang. The mermaid's voice was filled with magic, and it contained a faint spiritual energy, causing all the staff present to tremble. They felt as if they were suddenly hallucinating. A colorful and beautiful beach appeared in front of them. Every grain of sand was as clear as crystal. Orchids that looked like broken jade slapped against the shore and reefs. The mermaid clan lived a carefree life in the bay. This was Yuji's own song, Crystal Bay. Crystal Bay was the harbor of West Sea City and was the most beautiful place in the Forest of Chaos. Yuji's song made people feel like they were in this beautiful place. Yugu continued to sing several songs and each song was like the sound of nature that struck people's hearts. Although she was using the sea race's language, when one reached this level, the lyrics were no longer important. Not to mention the fact that the Merpeople's language had 180 syllables, it was even more pleasant to listen to than the Elven language. Even if one couldn't understand it, it was still an extreme enjoyment. But Yugu was a bit lacking in confidence in her performance. How about it, are these songs good enough? I still have many songs, I can sing them all live. Very beautiful. Aildis couldn't help praising, "You are a seedling with a lot of talent and potential. It's fine as long as we finish recording these songs first." Aubersen said to Aildis, "Go give a call to the Miracle Radio's people and have them broadcast the new songs on the radio tonight. Pick a good music channel and time." Aildis said, "We have just cooperated with the Central State Radio Station. The Central State Radio Station has a wide coverage in the Kingdom Alliance, so we might as well give it a try at the Central State Radio Station." Aubersen thought about it and said, "All right. Then let's do it together." Aildis said, "We'll first turn these songs into records and produce 100,000 sets. I believe there won't be enough to keep up with the demand." The two elves made a decision after a short discussion. Aubersen took out a contract to sign with Yugu. "After you sign with Life and Culture Entertainment, you will be an artist of our company. The contract will last for 5 years and the contract will be protected by the Forest Alliance's laws. After you sign with us, we will package and promote you. From now on, your music will be sold on the radio station's channels and the profits will be split 50-50 with the company. In the future, the profits from your concerts will be split 70-30, with you taking 70%. Other than that, there will be other income like commercial endorsements, acting in movies, and etc. All of it is written in here. If you don't have any doubts, then sign the contract with us." Yugu didn't know how to calculate these benefits. But the elves wouldn't cheat people. Yugu simply looked over it twice before signing the contract. That night, Yuji's songs were spread across the Forest of Chaos and several kingdoms through the radio station, instantly creating a large stir. Countless orders flew into the company like snowflakes. Even Aubersen didn't expect it to be this popular. One day. Just one day. The Mermaid Song magnetic sound disc received over 200,000 orders, far surpassing the previous record. It almost broke the sales record. Each record had a source stone in profit, and although it wasn't high, it added up to 200,000 source stones in profit. According to the 50-50 split with the company, Yugu earned 100,000 in a single night. What concept was 100,000 source stones? This amount of wealth was an astronomical figure to her. Yugu might not have been able to save this much money in her entire life. This was just the beginning. Aubersen and Aildis estimated that the first record would sell over 2 million. Yugu had many original songs and she could continue to create them in the future. There were also many regions and markets in the Western Sea countries that hadn't been developed yet. Even if it was a conservative estimate. In the future, she could make at least 10 million source stones in profit. Yugu would definitely become one of the most important stars of the Life and Culture Entertainment Company. This entertainment company's future economic value and revenue would most likely be higher than several forest cities added together. Chapter 598. The changes that miracle commerce brought to the forest, to the kingdom, and to the world were constantly happening. Lu He and Yugu were the epitome of countless people. This company that was born in a small southern summer city had now become a giant. It was like a giant net that was wildly weaving across the entire continent. It was constantly sucking in all the resources, wealth, and people together. No matter how busy the Forest Alliance was or how it developed, Chu Tian did not care about it at all. Because of this, Chu Tian was currently sitting on a beautiful mermaid crystal boat, drifting across the deep blue sea. Meng Yingying, Wei Weian, and Nan Gongyun, the three sworn sisters of different surnames, were all dressed in casual attire. They wore extremely short skirts, and their long, snow-white legs were dangling in front of Chu Tian. Their upper bodies were covered in thin muslin clothing, and their heads were adorned with exquisite hats. They looked no different from a normal noble lady going out to play. Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu were leisurely lying on the beach chairs, enjoying the warm sea breeze while drinking the priceless fairy wine brewed by the flower fairies from the miracle gardens. Meng Qinggu took a sip of the fairy wine and let the energy slowly seep into her body. This priceless immortal wine, to normal people, just smelling it was a blessing of 3 lifetimes. Even for cultivators with deep cultivation bases, this was a treasure that could only be found and not sought. It was only used as an important method to attack a cultivation base when they were in closed-door cultivation. Now it was here. The fairy wine was just wine. Meng Qinggu did not deliberately absorb it at all, allowing the energy in the wine to scatter in her body. She just enjoyed it as a top-quality drink. This would be a waste of a heavenly treasure in anyone's eyes, but in the hands of Miracle City's city lord, this fairy wine was not that precious. Miracle City and Miracle Commerce were like the sun in the sky, having over 10 million flowing source stones. Chu Tian had taken the large amount of resources from the Alexis City treasury in the subterranean world that hadn't been stored yet. Adding in the tens of millions of source stones in Miracle City's reserves, they could be considered a large financial group on the continent. Even if he used up all his source stones and was in a tight spot, wasn't there still Miracle Bank? With the development of the Forest Alliance's financial industry, it wasn't hard to take out 8 million source stones from Miracle Bank. The most important thing was only primordial stone reserves and resource reserves. Miracle City's most valuable asset that couldn't be measured would always be real estate, like the transport towers and communication towers all over the world, like the underground Purgatory World's mines, like the Forest Alliance's resource fields, like the star mines in outer space, like Miracle City's investments in various companies in the Forest of Chaos, like Miracle City's Insect Research Lab, intelligent factories, oil mines, and etc. There was no way to estimate the exact value of these assets, because if they were to be calculated, it would definitely be a huge number. The Forest Alliance was already tied to the development of Miracle Commerce. The large and small companies in the Forest Alliance all had Miracle City's investments and shares. For example, the Life and Culture Company created by the Two Tree of Life Elven Elders, the Eternal Forests Matrix Language Company, the Giant Mountain Ranges Equipment Company, the Dragon's Ridges Material Company, and even the Savage Highlands Large-Scale Mercenary Group, Miracle Commerce had a share. The entire alliance was using the Miracle Commerce Center's technology and products. Therefore it wasn't an exaggeration to say that as long as the Forest Alliance was prosperous, Miracle Commerce was prosperous. As long as the Forest Alliance was strong, Miracle Commerce was strong. Now that the entire environment was in a growth spurt, even if Miracle Commerce didn't do anything now, it would expand several times in a year. Chu Tian didn't dare say that his influence was the strongest on the continent, but in terms of business potential and wealth accumulation, other than a few old large empires, on this plane, on this continent, Miracle Commerce could sweep across it. These two were the highest leaders of Miracle Commerce. What did a few jugs of fairy wine count for? Chu Tian raised the jade jug and filled it for the young miss. After playing around for a few days, isn't your mood much more relaxed? Occasionally taking a break like this, whether it's for your brain or cultivation, it's very helpful. What else could Meng Qinggu say? You're the boss, what you say is naturally the law. I just hope that nothing goes wrong at home. Young miss, don't be this disappointing. Chu Tian changed to a more comfortable position in the chair. We have enough wealth to spend for 500 years, why do you want to live this tiring? Meng Qinggu shook her head. With Miracle Commerce's current scale and ability to make money, we won't be able to spend it even if we squander it for 5,000 years, but this level is far from enough for you. Chu Tian was a bit stunned. Why does the young miss say this? Your ambitions, your aspirations, aren't just the continent. Meng Qinggu basked in the warm sunlight as she casually said, the cultivation you pursue, I won't just be in the heaven domain realm. I don't know how big your ambitions are, but I believe you will charge even further, even reaching a point we can't imagine. This requires a strong enough foundation and technology. The current Miracle Commerce is far from enough. Chu Tian's expression changed a bit. No wonder Ying always says that the one who understands me the most is the young miss. Chu Tian gave a few loud laughs, but speaking of this, in just 2 years, we've gone from a small southern summer company to our current level. This speed already surpasses my imagination. If it wasn't for the young miss help, how could it be this smooth today? Since you've already boarded this pirate ship, you'll follow me to the end of your life. Chu Tian deliberately teased, since it's like this, you might as well marry me with Ying. Meng Qinggu gave a pei sound, keep dreaming. Chu Tian was very confused. Although the young miss was a conservative person, she wasn't to the point of being inflexible. Why was she always hesitating on this matter? We'll talk about our matters in the future. Meng Qinggu said in a low voice, I hope that Yingying can have a unique wedding that belongs to her. Chu Tian shrugged his shoulders. The young miss' love for her little sister really couldn't be any greater. This sea is very, very big. I think with this ship's speed, we won't reach the end even after a year. At this time, Meng Yingying happily ran around the deck. Chu Tian, what do you think is at the end of the sea? Vivian was also very curious about this question. This question needs to be explained with the plane structure. Chu Tian narrowed his eyes as he looked into the distance and said, our plane structure is a sphere. The distance to the membrane is thin and there is no gravity. Whether it is outer space, underground, or the four corners of the continent, there is a region without gravity. The sea water will stop flowing after a certain distance, so the end of the Western Sea is an empty void. The sea water will fall like a cliff into the abyss, finally flowing back through the undercurrents. Wah, Big Brother Chu Tian is too strong, how do you know everything? Nonsense, otherwise how could I be your boss? Chu Tian sat up and looked around, where's Nangong? As soon as Chu Tian's voice fell, the sea water in front of them exploded. Nangong Yun's body was covered in flames, instantly turning a large part of the sea into mist. She directly pulled out a giant octopus that was over 100 meters long from the sea. This octopus was an intermediate level 3 demon beast, being around the strength of a cultivator in the 5th true spirit layer. It was actually killed by Nangong Yun in just a few fists. Nangong Yun picked the best octopus leg and brought it back to the deck. Look, I found some fresh seafood. Let's eat teppanyaki octopus today. Meng Yingying and Vivian were both drooling. This kind of fresh ingredient, the company's high-end cooking equipment, and a pot of fairy wine, this was simply the highest level of enjoyment in the world. The three beauties immediately busied themselves, preparing a feast for Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu. Meng Qinggu helplessly revealed a smile, these three fellows really are birds of a feather. When Chu Tian was about to speak, a mermaid crew member suddenly came over. His expression was a bit unnatural as he said to Chu Tian, we can't keep going forward. Why? The 10,000 flood dragon archipelago is in front of us. Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu looked at each other, is this place special? Why is it called the 10,000 flood dragon archipelago? Are there many flood dragons on it? That's not it. The 10,000 flood dragon archipelago is one of the largest archipelago in the Western Sea and was once a part of the Deep Blue Empire. After the Deep Blue Empire split, the 10,000 flood dragon archipelago became independent and is now called the 10,000 flood dragon warring kingdom. The 10,000 flood dragon king is a flood dragon person with a deep cultivation and is very strong. He was once one of the 4 chief envoys of the Deep Blue Empire, being on the same level as City Lord Bo Sha. Another warring kingdom. Meng Qinggu tightly knit her brows as she said to Chu Tian, flood dragon people are not easy to deal with, the 10,000 flood dragon king must be a very hard character to deal with. Not to mention that they dare call themselves a warring kingdom, that means their kingdom is not weak. We shouldn't easily provoke them, the Western Sea situation is not stable yet. If it was normal times, Chu Tian would have gone to take a look, but this time he was on vacation and not looking for trouble, so Chu Tian could only wave his hand and say, forget it, this really is disappointing. Since we've played enough, let's go back. The mermaid crew members let out a sigh of relief. The giant crystal ship slowly turned around. When Chu Tian was preparing to return, an accident suddenly occurred. The crystal ship shook violently, as if it had been hit by a giant hammer. The entire ship was almost overturned on the spot. Fuck, who did this? In the water, everyone be careful. 2 giant sea flood dragons surrounded them, attacking the crystal ship. This crystal ship was given to Chu Tian by Bo Sha and was one of the strongest ships the mermaids had. The entire ship had been reinforced and even a heaven domain expert might not be able to easily sink it. At this time, Several huge ships with strange styles appeared in all directions. The mermaid crew members' expressions fell when they saw this. It's the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom's ship. Chu Tian slightly narrowed his eyes. This was a bit interesting. Chu Tian didn't plan on provoking them, but they ended up provoking them. Chapter 599. The 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom's fleet began to surround the crystal ship. The leading flagship was facing the crystal ship, and a 2.5-meter tall person wearing black armor came forward. This was a race no one had seen before. He looked like a combination of a flood dragon and a human, being half human and half flood dragon. His body was covered in scales and his body was slender. He had a pair of dark gold eyes, having the special dark gold pupils of the dragon race. The flood dragon person. A famous high-level sea race. The flood dragon person had the bloodline of the sea flood dragon and was proficient in the sea flood dragon language. He had a strong innate talent and was a brave warrior. When the Deep Blue Empire still existed, most of the empire's generals were flood dragon people. It was because of this that one of the 4 chief envoys of the Deep Blue Empire, the flood dragon person Governor Lucas, had enough troops and manpower to occupy the largest archipelago in the Western Sea. He had gathered his old subordinates to create the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom. Although the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom couldn't compare to West Sea City's Crystal Bay in terms of wealth, their army was several times stronger than Bo Sha's. Isn't this Bo Sha's ship? Since you're here, why don't you come to the 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago? 2 sea dragons coiled around the crystal ship in the water, and more than a dozen warships surrounded it, almost forming an airtight formation. The merman captain came out and angrily shouted, "We did not offend the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom Sea, what right do you have to do this?" Although Bo Sha and Lucas had their own forces, they were still of the same origin. The 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago and West Sea City were split from the Deep Blue Empire. The relationship between the two sides wasn't that good, but it wasn't that bad either. West Sea City would provide the 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago with convenient transportation, and the 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago would send troops to solve problems for the West Sea coast. It was because of this mutual benefit relationship that as long as they didn't do anything out of line, the two sides wouldn't easily tear each other's faces. The Flood Dragon person clearly knew that the crystal ship belonged to Bo Sha. Why did he dare send troops to block them? It's said that West Sea City has been doing quite well recently. Since you've already made it, I think you should increase the protection fee a bit. The Flood Dragon person did not hide his goal at all. Without the 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago's protection, can your West Sea City be at ease? The merman captain's face slightly changed. The Flood Dragon person's attitude suddenly changed. The Flood Dragon person's attitude changed. This matter was not simple. Flood Dragon King's Island. Ha ha ha. The Flood Dragon person general arrogantly said, "For City Lord Bo Sha to lend her crystal ship to others, it means that these people are not simple to West Sea City. Capturing you will be a pretty good bargaining chip. Do you think capturing you is useful?" The faces of the mermaids and mermen changed dramatically. This fellow's attitude was equivalent to starting a war with West Sea City. Weren't the two sides always on good terms? Why did the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom turn hostile so quickly? This was too illogical. The Flood Dragon general raised his spear and pointed, "Take them all down." A few sea flood dragons roared as they charged out of the water. Sea flood dragons were very high-ranked magic beasts of the dragon race. These sea flood dragons lived in the 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago. Although they were tamed by the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom, once they matured, they would have the strength of a rank 3 magic beast. Roar! The two sea serpents seemed to be wrapped in a layer of water armor. The spiraling water energy wrapped around their bodies, making them look more like two powerful drills. They first soared into the sky and then drilled down. They seemed to be trying to pierce through the deck of the crystal warship. Courting death. Nangong Yun and Vivian attacked at the same time. Nangong Yun turned into a fire phoenix that soared into the sky, punching the sea serpent's head. The water and fire cancelled each other out, instantly creating a mist of water. The sea serpent let out a painful howl as its entire head was burnt, falling back into the water with a putong sound. Vivian passed through the water serpent and sent out a spatial slash. The impenetrable body of the sea serpent was instantly cut in half like a small snake. The two halves of the sea serpent's body fell back into the water, wildly struggling and howling. The sea serpent's blood dyed a large part of the sea red. Nangong Yun said to Vivian, "To catch the thief, first catch the king." Vivian nodded, "All right." The two of them were teleported to the other side's flagship. Nangong Yun's body was once again ignited with blazing wind and fire, and two fiery fists descended like meteors from the heavens. Vivian used her arms as blades, and wherever she waved her arms, spatial energy would surge. Although it was just a hand blade, it was sharper than any divine weapon. "Humph, you do have some skill." The Flood Dragon General's spear suddenly came out, falling onto Vivian's body. A terrifying energy was released, instantly dispelling Vivian's spatial energy. His other hand sent out a palm and his spirit energy turned into several hundred little flood dragons. The several hundred little flood dragons interweaved into a wave of water energy that slammed into Nangong Yun. Nangong Yun gave a muffled grunt as he was instantly slammed into the deck, suffering heavy injuries. Such strong spirit energy. It was a heaven domain expert. Was the 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago prepared to completely fall out with West Sea City? This kind of peak expert was ranked in the top 10 in the 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago. He was definitely one of the most important generals of the 10,000 Flood Dragon King. Such an important person being sent to intercept the ship, this was truly using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. The Flood Dragon General pointed his spear at the crystal ship. "Don't make any more pointless resistance. His Majesty the 10,000 Flood Dragon King wants to see you, please come with me." The mermaid's face turned livid. This was bad. Several dozen 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdoms warships, there were at least several tens of thousands of soldiers. The Flood Dragon was a peak human expert and a general personally leading this army. How could they be ordinary people? Not to mention the fact that the Flood Dragon General was a peak Heaven Domain realm expert. Just this, not a small army, was something these people couldn't resist. Just as the Flood Dragon People General finished speaking, another dozen or so sea flood dragons emerged from the ocean and surrounded the crystal ship. The seawater was stirred crazily, forming a huge whirlpool that completely locked the crystal ship inside. The mermaid captain quickly came in front of Chu Tian. "City Lord Chu Tian, please leave quickly, don't worry about us." The mermaid captain was City Lord Bo Sha's confidant, so he knew that Miracle City had transport scrolls. Although the current situation was very serious, it wasn't enough to threaten Chu Tian. Chu Tian didn't seem worried at all as he calmly said, "What are you worried about? You want to threaten us with this little situation? The current situation wasn't serious enough." A Heaven Domain expert was already hard to deal with, not to mention being surrounded by an army and the sea flood dragons blocking the sea. With just the few people on this crystal ship, there was no suspense at all. Meng Qinggu didn't seem worried at all. She took out a cell phone and dialed a number. When it connected, she gave a simple order: attack, clear the surrounding obstacles. When everyone didn't know what was going on, ear-piercing screeches came from the clouds. More than 10 black thunder fighters broke through the clouds, like a dozen giant knives, drawing a dozen long lines on the surface of the sea. The source energy cannons fired. The 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdoms warships were hit by the source energy cannons and large holes were immediately blasted open. There were even several warships that were blasted into pieces. The 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdoms soldiers were slow and couldn't react in time. The black fighters released another wave of powerful missiles. Hung, hung, hung. The surroundings instantly turned into a sea of flames. The Flood Dragon Person General's face fell as he angrily roared out. He flew up from the ground and tried to stop the Black Thunder fighters, but at this time, the space in front of him shook a few times and a figure appeared from the void. With a flick of his right hand. Pang! The flood dragon person's chest directly exploded, and a cloud of blood burst out into the air, causing him to be knocked back dozens of meters. Fortunately, the flood dragon person's cultivation was very high, and he used a protective technique to block the power of the formless sword finger. Otherwise, that attack would have pierced through his heart. How bold, you actually dare injure me. The flood dragon person general's cultivation was very strong, immediately suppressing the wound on his chest. A spear flew out from his hand and like a river flowing backwards, it instantly bloomed. It was like a silver river that surrounded Chu Tian, instantly ripping apart Chu Tian's body. There was no doubt the strength of a heaven domain expert. However, what shocked the flood dragon person was that after Chu Tian's body was torn apart, it turned into sparks that filled the sky. These sparks quickly connected to form a large sea of fire, engulfing the entire flood dragon person in the flames. The figures in the eyes of fire condensed again, turning into Chu Tian's appearance. It was a clone. When Chu Tian's sneak attacked the flood dragon person general, he immediately released the netherworld clone and his main body teleported behind the flood dragon person. When the flood dragon person attacked the clone, Chu Tian also made a move. Phaseless sword slash. Chu Tian condensed a large amount of spirit energy to release an even stronger sword move. Since a normal phaseless sword finger couldn't break through a heaven domain expert's domain power, this move was 10 times stronger than the phaseless sword finger, it was almost impossible to miss. The flood dragon person general was swallowed by the netherworld flames and the netherworld power was already very close to the heaven domain realm. His body was covered in flames as he flew into the air. His hands absorbed the surrounding flames to form 2 flaming blades that slashed at the flood dragon person. Dang! The flood dragon person general had no choice but to block it. The flames and raging waves collided. The flood dragon person's cultivation base was shocking, it was able to scatter the flames, but after being baptized by the netherworld flames, the flood dragon person's protective cultivation technique had been weakened to its limit. Chu Tian's attack arrived at this time, sending out a spatial sword slash from head to toe. It was instantly released. Invisible and formless. If this strike had hit, the flood dragon general would have been cleaved into 2. However, his intuition for danger, which he had cultivated through countless years of battle, allowed him to dodge at the critical moment. Only one of his arms was chopped off. The flood dragon person general's vitality was greatly injured. He never would have thought that a respected heaven domain expert would suffer a loss under this brat's hands. The flood dragon person general didn't want to fight and was prepared to escape. He used a secret technique to escape into the sea. As long as he entered the sea, he would be able to escape 1,000 miles away. Want to run? How could it be that easy? Chu Tian didn't have time to make a move. The little fox's eyes lit up. The several dozen sea flood dragons at the bottom of the sea were all controlled by the little fox. They all turned into water tornadoes that drilled out of the sea, viciously attacking the flood dragon person general in the air. The flood dragon person general's face fell. He was caught off guard and was hit by the sea flood dragons. He was sent flying high into the air and was tightly entangled by the sea flood dragons. Damn! The flood dragon person general's face fell because a jet black treasure sword was placed against his neck. This sword contained a powerful destructive might and as long as Chu Tian made a move, his head would be removed. I think there's no need to go to the 10,000 flood dragon archipelago as a guest. Chu Tian said to him with a smile, I ask your excellency to come to West Sea City. Chapter 600. Chu Tian had taken care of the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom, he didn't mind making another 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom. Are you two alright? We were too careless, we never thought we would meet a Heaven Domain cultivator. Vivian quickly stood up. It was a good thing Big Brother Chu Tian was strong, taking care of this heaven domain cultivator in a few moves, otherwise it would have been too embarrassing. What do we do now? This fellow is simply too daring. Nan Gongyun had just suffered a large loss and was currently filled with anger. Why don't we directly kill him? There's a use for this fellow. Chu Tian released spatial energy from his body and the two of them were wrapped in it, instantly being transported to the crystal ship. The Mare people were already filled with admiration towards Chu Tian's abilities. No wonder this man could sit on the throne of Miracle City's city lord. This kind of method was very shocking. Chu Tian said to the Mare people captain, "I'm very thankful for the warm hospitality of our fellow Mare people. We've all had a very happy time on this trip. I will have the Black Thunder planes escort the crystal ship back. We'll be leaving first." The Flood Dragon General was in the Heaven Domain realm. Although he was temporarily restrained, it was still very dangerous. Not to mention the 10,000 Flood Dragon King could catch up at any time, so Chu Tian couldn't use the crystal ship to leisurely return. "Let's go." They activated the spatial scrolls and instantly left the crystal ship. The entire crystal ship besides the mermaid captain who had already seen the effect of the teleportation scroll, the other mermaids were all stunned. They had used a small scroll to teleport through space and directly return to West Sea City from the distant sea. What did they do? This is too shocking. Humph, how could you understand Miracle City's things? I've lived for this long, but I've never seen an iron bird that can fly in the sky and release a strong attack. The Mare people captain looked up at the sky and then slowly said in an emotional voice, "West Sea City and Miracle City's alliance, it really is City Lord Bo Sha's wisest decision. Our future generations will be blessed." Several dozen Black Thunder planes followed the crystal ship, slowly heading to Crystal Bay. Chu Tian and the others returned to West Sea City and the first thing they did was hand the person over to Bo Sha. The 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom was a very important force in the West Sea. If the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom became enemies with West Sea City would have countless troubles. West Sea City was now a part of the Forest Alliance, so if the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom wanted to move against West Sea City, it would be like moving against Chu Tian's head. The 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago didn't have any direct conflicts with the Forest Alliance. The 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago and West Sea City even had a cooperative relationship. With how large the Forest Alliance was, the 10,000 Flood Dragon King had no reason to go against the Forest Alliance. With all these things, it wasn't hard to deduce that the 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago was a representative. There had to be one or several other powers behind the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom, so the 10,000 Flood Dragon King had the confidence to deal with West Sea City. Bo Sha came back with a dark expression. Meng Qinggu immediately stepped forward and asked, "How is it?" "The information we brought back this time is extremely important. Otherwise, if the 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago were to plot against us, we would still be kept in the dark. But the person we brought back is one of the 3 trusted generals of the 10,000 Flood Dragon King Lucas. He is very loyal to Lucas and his mouth is very tight, so I'm afraid we won't be able to get any information." "We won't be able to get any information?" Nan Gongyun couldn't keep her calm. She rolled up her sleeves and said, "Let me try." "Save it." Chu Tian rolled his eyes. If you could deal with him with just these methods, City Lord Bo Sha would have already gotten the information. "We can't just capture a person for nothing, right? Don't be anxious, there's no mouth that can't be pried open, it's just that we haven't done enough." Chu Tian said to Meng Qinggu on the side, "Young miss, I'll have to trouble you to contact the Savage Highlands and have them send people over to help." Meng Qinggu thought about it for 2-3 seconds before taking out a cell phone and dialing a number. After 10 minutes. In the West Sea City Transport Tower, several strange dressed spirit beasts appeared. There were goat race, snake race, and lizard race. They were all wearing large robes and strange masks. Their fingers, wrists, necks, and bodies were all covered in all kinds of bone ornaments. They made crackling sounds as they walked, but they released a kind of energy that could touch one's heart. Meng Qinggu immediately went forward to greet them. "We've troubled Sir Bishop Moto this time." The one walking at the very front of this group of spirit beasts was an old man that didn't look very shocking. He seemed to be a variant of the snake race or lizard race. His body didn't have any scales and was covered in wrinkles. His eyes were filled with white fog, clearly a blind person. Although this blind person couldn't see, he could accurately sense where Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu were. He walked forward with his cane and respectfully bowed. "It is Moto's honor to be able to serve the two city lords." Bo Sha felt a strange aura coming from this spirit beast. "This is..." Chu Tian introduced him to Meng Qinggu. "This is the Savage Highlands Shaman Religion's Bishop Moto. We'll leave the interrogation to the shaman. I think we'll get what we want in less than half a day." The shaman religion had an important position in the Savage Highlands. Bishop Moto's position was only below Burst Claws, and he himself was an expert in the third heaven domain layer. Although the shaman religion was developing in Burst Claw's city, Burst Claw didn't have the position to directly order Moto. Now, because of a single sentence from Meng Qinggu, he was directly transported from the shaman religion's temple. It could be imagined just how big Miracle City's face was. This was also understandable. Although Miracle City had never dominated before, Miracle City was already recognized as the leader of the Forest Alliance. From the forest to other areas, Miracle City controlled more and more cities. If the shaman religion wanted to gain more followers in the future, how could they not please Miracle City? Bo Sha had never seen Bishop Moto, but she had heard of the shaman religion's methods. This kind of interrogation work was best done by the shaman sorcerers. The shamans were not just proficient in various kinds of medicines that could weaken a person's mind, they also had various kinds of gu techniques that could bewitch a person's mind, directly controlling their thoughts. The Forest Alliance was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Moto was much stronger than this flood dragon person general, and he was proficient in all kinds of shaman techniques. In just a short hour, he had obtained all the information he wanted. This old man has already asked clearly. The Forest Alliance has been growing, so it has attracted the attention of several countries. Moto reported the situation to them, especially Miracle Commerce's technology. These powers are all drooling over it. Therefore, several powers have secretly formed an alliance to restrict us, and this 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom is just the vanguard. It really was like this. Even if the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom was dissatisfied with the Forest Alliance, in front of the difference in strength, they could at most stab them in the dark. They shouldn't have made a move like this. Therefore, there had to be a reason behind this matter, but no one thought that the power targeting the Forest Alliance would be this large. City Lord Bo Sha was a bit worried. There are close to 10 countries secretly playing tricks in this short period of time. I think the other side's power will continue to increase. Although the Forest Alliance has their own territory, it will be hard for them to escape being sealed off. Meng Qinggu asked, "What is the scale of these powers and which one is the leader?" Moto slowly replied, "The other large and small kingdoms are nothing to worry about, but there are warring kingdoms and empires. If the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom is added, there will be a total of 3 warring kingdoms. As for empires, there is only the Big Dry Empire." This was what Bo Sha was most worried about. The 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom was actually working with the Big Dry Empire. The Big Dry Empire had quite a bit of influence on the western continent, especially the countries on the west coast. West Sea City had once worked with the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom to resist the Big Dry Empire's ambitions, but who would have thought that as soon as West Sea City joined the Forest Alliance, the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom would run over to the Big Dry Empire. Once the Big Dry Empire came into conflict with the Forest Alliance, it would be a long battle. This was because the Big Dry Empire was different from any opponent Miracle Commerce had faced before. The forest giants looked strong, but they didn't have many people and they all had their own weaknesses. The Eagle Burial Kingdom looked strong, but they were actually strong on the outside and weak on the inside. The Big Dry Empire was different. This was an incomparably strong empire with 7,800 years of history. It had a solid background and a vast territory, with over 21 billion people. Even if the kingdom alliance supported by Chu Tian was added together, the population of several large and small kingdoms added together couldn't compare to the Big Dry Empire, not to mention other aspects. The most important thing was, the Big Dry Empire was a strong country on the Western continent. The Big Dry Empire had a large influence on the Western continent, and if the Big Dry Empire came into conflict with the Forest Alliance, the Western Sea countries would have to cut off their trade with West Sea City because of their political standpoint. West Sea City would suffer a large loss, and the one who would benefit the most would be the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom. So it's the Big Dry Empire, then it's not strange at all. Chu Tian rubbed his chin in an awkward manner. He suddenly said to Meng Qinggu beside him, the other 8-9 kingdoms, whether it is the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom or other countries, they are all chess pieces of the Big Dry Empire. The true opponent we have to face is this empire. Meng Yingying's eyes popped out. It can't be, we really have to fight with an empire? How can we beat them? Their battle strength is more than 10 times ours. Even the arrogant Nangong Yun knit her brows. The Big Dry Empire was one of the strongest countries on the continent. Chu Tian shook his head and said, "What are you worried about? If the Big Dry Empire was our neighbor, we would have already been destroyed. How could we have developed to this day? Actually, the Big Dry Empire is several forests of chaos away from us, which is why we haven't been alerted until now. It was too late to be alerted now. No matter how strong the Big Dry Empire's army was, they were still far and filled with dangers. Not to mention the fact that the Forest Alliance's cities were hidden deep in the mountains and forests, even underground. The Big Dry Empire's army had to penetrate several tens of millions of square kilometers of forest to find 200-300 cities and destroy them one by one. This was a very difficult matter even for an empire. Chu Tian didn't say anything for now. What does the young miss think? Meng Qinggu thought about it for a few seconds before saying, although the Big Dry Empire can't directly threaten us, controlling several warring kingdoms is enough to cause us a lot of trouble. So, we can't avoid it and we have to face it head on. The Big Dry Empire is very strong and there is more than one empire on the continent. They are anxious to deal with us, but they can't destroy us in a short period of time. Perhaps the other empires or enemies of the Big Dry Empire want to cooperate with us. That's right. Chu Tian laughed. We'll do it like this. Chapter 601. Over 90% of the continent was not inhabited by intelligent beings, but the remaining 10% was more than enough to accommodate the hundreds of billions of intelligent beings in the world. There were a total of 14 empire-level powers among these billions of intelligent beings. There were 6 human empires, 4 spirit-beast empires, 2 elven empire-level powers, 1 dragon empire-level power, and 1 undead empire-level power. The concepts of empires and empire-level powers were different. The human and spirit-beast empires were all smoothly established and operated like countries. The highest leader was an emperor who was supreme and no one could compare to him. As for the empire-level powers, they were just one power. Although their background and strength could compare to an empire, they didn't establish a country, so they didn't have a country name and their internal structure was very loose. The Dark Night Forest's Dark Night Elves were an empire-level power. The Dark Night Forest was a forest around the same size as the Forest of Chaos, but what was different from the Forest of Chaos was that the Dark Night Forest didn't have any other races, it was completely ruled by the elves, therefore it could be called an empire-level power. However, the Night Elves didn't establish a country. The Night Elves in the entire Dark Forest lived the most primitive life as tribes and tribes. Only when enemies invaded would they unite and fight together. Although the overall strength wasn't weaker than the empires on the continent, it couldn't be considered an empire. Other than that, the most representative place was the Dragon Domain where 100,000 giant dragons lived and the Netherworld Sea where countless liches and undead ruled. These areas weren't large, but they were not inferior to the power of an empire. Even on the continent, they could be considered a heavyweight power. Other than these 14 empire-level powers, there were over 150 warring kingdoms and over 1,000 kingdoms. It was this kind of pyramid-like power structure that established the current structure of the continent. The Forest of Chaos had been unified by Miracle City. There was a chance for an empire-level power to be born in the future. Of course, it was just a chance. The Forest of Chaos had been in internal strife for many years, and whether it was their background or strength, there was a large gap between them and the empire-level powers. The rise of the Forest of Chaos would definitely attract the attention of these giants, and it was very likely that the Forest of Chaos would be destroyed before it could truly rise. The Forest of Chaos and Miracle Commerce were unknown on the continent before, but after the rocket was successfully launched, allowing Miracle Commerce's people to land on the moon, this unknown company and city suddenly became popular in the eyes of the people of the continent. There were good and bad sides to paying attention to. The various countries began to understand Miracle Commerce's products, and the demand for all kinds of products increased by 10 times in just half a month. Even if all the large factories and production lines worked overtime to make products, Miracle Commerce's production capacity was still insufficient. It was hard to find a single product, so the price naturally rose. Especially when considering the prices of some empires, a phonograph could be sold for over 1,000 source stones in the empire's markets. Miracle City estimated that they would be able to export several tens of millions of source stones in a month. This would greatly increase Miracle City's income and also set the foundation for Miracle City's strategy to spread across the continent. Miracle City's splendor attracted many covetous eyes. The Great Qian Empire was the best example. Even if Chu Tian didn't have any conflicts with the Big Dry Empire's sage Yuan Shi and the great general Jing Wuying, with the Big Dry Empire being the closest empire to Miracle City, it was impossible for him not to covet the fat meat that was Miracle Commerce. Although Miracle Commerce could not be compared to Qian at the moment, it was believed that in the near future, Miracle Commerce's income would increase exponentially. This was simply a treasure bowl. Now the Big Dry Empire was roping in large amounts of subordinate countries, as well as the isolated 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom. They were thinking of ways to make a move against Miracle Forest. Chu Tian was not afraid of a direct challenge, but he couldn't endure the endless harassment. At this time, Miracle City released a piece of news that shook the continent. The Forest Alliance was preparing to hold an unprecedented Miracle Summit, inviting the rulers or emperors of the several hundred countries on the continent to participate. There were a total of 4 goals. First, Miracle Commerce would release a heavyweight product that could change the continent. Second, Miracle City would open up their own platform and even open up their technology to find partners. Third, Miracle City would open up the underground world and outer space, providing all kinds of convenience and activities, inviting the large and small powers of the continent to join in. Fourth, the Chu sect and Yun sect would begin recruiting talents. Miracle Academy would recruit students from all over the continent. As long as they had talent or potential, whether it was the crown prince of an emperor or a small character from a poor family, Miracle Commerce would treat them the same. The amount of information in these 3 pieces of news was just too large. First was the first. Did Miracle City lack technology that could change the continent? But they had always done it in a low-key manner. Announcing it with such great fanfare this time was a very rare thing to do. Now that Miracle Commerce was the focus of everyone on the continent, if they missed this opportunity, second was the second. Miracle Commerce would open up their platform to the countries of the continent. This was very attractive to the nobles. What was even more inconceivable was that Miracle Commerce was prepared to open up their technology. If Miracle Commerce could publicize their technology, it would be very attractive to any country. Then there was the third. If the second was a bit vague, Miracle Commerce didn't clearly state which platforms and technologies to open up, the third condition was very clear. From the underground world to outer space, Miracle Commerce was willing to help the various large powers, sharing these precious resources with everyone. Finally, there was the fourth condition. If the first 3 conditions were very attractive to the nobles, strength, and countries, then the fourth condition was very attractive to talents. Who didn't know that Miracle City's technology was unparalleled? If they could use Miracle City's technology, they would be at the forefront of the continent. Perhaps even the emperors would want to send their princesses and princes over. The continent was too big. Chu Tian was worried that the news would be blocked or changed, so he sent several dozen messengers to the transport towers at the edge of Miracle City to head to the various countries. The various countries were instantly stirred. Human race, Western continent, heaven-burning empire. Burning Heaven monarch purposely came out of seclusion. He gathered all the civil and military officials to discuss this matter. Burning Heaven monarch sat on the throne high above. I'm sure everyone knows about the recent rumors in the country. Prime Minister Li, what do you think? The heaven-burning empire's sage and prime minister, an old man surnamed Li, came out. This old man thinks that this is a rare chance. First, we can investigate Miracle City's situation, and second, we can take this chance to cooperate with the Forest Alliance. If we don't go, perhaps the other countries will take this chance. That's reasonable. The heaven-burning emperor had already made his decision. Gathering all the officials was just for show. He waved his hand and said, "This emperor will personally head to Miracle City. Prime Minister Li, Great General Zhao, come with me." The Prime Minister and Great General cupped their hands. Human race, Central Continent, Wind Moon Empire. The Wind Moon Empire was a very special empire on the continent. The Wind Moon Empire was a women's empire. From the empress to the various families, the ones in power were all women. Instead, it was the men who had low statuses, which was considered a wonder of the continent. We respectfully welcome the empress. 70 to 80% of the royal palace was filled with female officials and female generals. The royal palace was also filled with pink curtains, filled with the gentle charm of a woman. It didn't have the aggressiveness of the royal palace at all. The Wind Moon Empress was lying on a jade couch with a hand supporting her head, looking very casual. She was wearing a red dress, and a pair of slender legs could be faintly seen. Her red dress and white flesh made her look even more alluring. There were several small jade swords carefully tied up her hair, revealing her stunning appearance. There was a red mark between her eyebrows, but it was unknown if it was a mark from cultivating a secret technique or if it was just for decoration, but it added a bit of charm. Beauty, gentleness, charm, and dominance, all kinds of styles perfectly blended together. This empress wants to go to the Forest of Chaos. The 13 saintesses will accompany me. Immediately prepare. The empress did not ask or discuss, but there were no objections in the royal palace. This was because the empress liked the things Miracle City sent over recently. Now that the Wind Moon Empress was very interested in miracle commerce and Miracle City, who dared to oppose her at this time? Dark Night Forest. There was a group of silver-haired dark night elves gathered in the Elven Palace. Forest of Chaos. Isn't that where the Eternal Forest is located? The Eternal Forest is the birthplace of all the elves in the world. I've heard that Miracle City has even cultivated the ancient tree of life. We come from the same lineage as the night elves and the wood elves. We can't ignore this matter. Us night elves believe in the moon god, and Miracle City has already landed on the moon. We need to ask Miracle City to help us build our moon god's temple on the moon. Let's start voting. The Dark Night Elves Elven Council began to vote. Although the Dark Night Elves had never left the Dark Night Forest before, this matter was very important. There was the ancient tree of life being cultivated and the chance to go to the moon to worship the moon god, so most people agreed to participate in the Miracle Summit. The Netherworld Sea. There was an inland sea on the continent that was covered in energy all year round. It was a paradise for the dead. A gigantic skeleton ship slowly descended from the sky, and the King of Death was shrouded in shadows. Tens of thousands of liches floated up from the netherworld ocean respectfully, and they stood on the gray fog and gray ocean like tranquil statues. Miracle City holds the secret of the underground world space and time tunnel. We need to go to the Purgatory world to find this tunnel. Prepare to leave, we're heading to Miracle City. Dragon Territory. Countless giant dragons slowly descended. Nidhogg's luck really isn't bad. We should pay him a visit. Chapter 602. The continent was in an uproar, just like a clap of thunder on the ground. Miracle City had just finished their ascending to the moon feat, and this news had spread across the continent, but now they were holding this shocking meeting. What did the Forest Alliance count for? It wasn't even a country. That was just a bunch of random forest cities and underground cities in the chaotic region. Even if the Forest Alliance was formed now, it had only been a few short months. Could it compare to an empire-level power that had existed for tens of thousands of years? Then again, even if Miracle City was the founder and leader of the Forest Alliance, they had an equal relationship with the other cities and powers. You were just a city, you only had the ability to summon and not give orders. What gave you the confidence to summon the peak characters of the continent, the emperors, and the overlords to Miracle City for a meeting? Whether it was in terms of status, low position, or influence, Miracle City that had only ascended to the moon once couldn't compare to these giants. What made everyone's eyes pop out was that most of the Empire-level powers that received the invitation agreed. These Emperor-level characters were either preparing to go to Miracle City or were already on their way. When an Emperor came out, how grand was it? Naturally, it attracted everyone's attention, which increased the influence of this matter. It was hard for Miracle City not to be in the limelight now. Miracle City's alliance, including the forest and kingdom regions, were all deeply shocked by Miracle City and Chu Tian's face. When had something like this ever happened on the continent in the past 1,000 years? Chu Tian had just made an announcement and it had attracted this many important characters. But what was intriguing was that even the remote Dark Night Forest, Dragon's Territory, and Netherworld Sea all received this news. Only the Big Dry Empire closest to the Forest of Chaos didn't receive any invitation. How preposterous! The Big Dry Emperor flew into a rage when he received this news in the Big Dry Emperor's palace, turning a pillar into powder with a single palm. Good Miracle City, a palm-sized power actually wants to ally with the Burning Heaven, Wind Moon, Dragon's Territory, and Dark Night Forest powers to resist this emperor. Saint Yuan Shi, General Jing Wuying, and the other peak characters of the Big Dry Empire looked at each other in blank dismay when they saw the Big Dry Emperor's rage. Jing Wuying coldly snorted, "It's all the fault of the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom." The Big Dry Empire's envoy had just arrived at the 10,000 Flood Dragon Archipelago to discuss the matter of cooperation with the 10,000 Flood Dragon King, but the 10,000 Flood Dragon King leaked the news. Now that the Forest Alliance was on guard against the Big Dry Empire and came up with this drastic method, the Big Dry Empire fell into a very awkward situation. Everything has happened now. Yuan Shi shook his head and sighed. The 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom is a very useful chess piece. We can only try to appease them and not fall out with them easily. This is no small matter, and we must deal with it appropriately. Jing Wuying took 2 steps forward and said, "Big Dry Emperor, this general believes that the Miracle Summit cannot be held smoothly. I am willing to lead 50,000, no, 30,000 Golden Dragon Hawk soldiers to the Forest of Chaos and launch a surprise attack on Miracle City, razing it to the ground in one fell swoop." Miracle City wanted to use the tiger's skin to pull the flag? Then before Miracle City could form, they would first destroy Miracle City. What could the other rulers and overlords do if they knew? Even if they were dissatisfied with the Big Dry Empire, they wouldn't directly fight them. If the Miracle Summit was successfully held, the rulers and Miracle City would form all kinds of cooperation. At that time, wanting to move them wouldn't be an easy matter. Yuan Shi stood up and said, "The Martial King's words are wrong. Miracle City alone isn't enough, what we really need to worry about are the other powers in the Forest of Chaos. Whether it is the Savage Highlands or the Eternal Forest, if they were placed on the continent, they wouldn't be inferior to an intermediate warring kingdom. The combined strength of the entire Forest of Chaos already surpasses a high-level warring kingdom. 30,000 Golden Dragon Hawk soldiers are a bit difficult." Jing Wuying said with a cold smile, "My 10,000-mile raid is not the Forest Alliance, it is only targeting Miracle City. The Forest of Chaos is this big, can they save us in time? If they leave after destroying Miracle City, would the motley crew of the Forest of Chaos chase us to the Big Dry Empire? Yuanshi shook his head and said, with my understanding of Miracle City has a strong long-distance communication ability. With a large flying army, it is impossible for them to not notice us. Once Miracle City notices us, they will immediately send reinforcements. With the speed of the Golden Dragon Hawk army, perhaps they'll reach Miracle City before the Forest Alliance's reinforcements arrive. When they arrive, we'll have already razed Miracle City to the ground. What is there to fear? Jing Wuing didn't place Miracle City's technology in his eyes at all, not to mention that we can use the illusory clam beasts to cover our advance. Miracle City definitely won't be able to sense our existence. Yuanshi still didn't agree with this method. Miracle City was in the center of the Forest of Chaos and had always been low-key on the continent. No one knew how many secrets and abilities this city was hiding. If the Big Dry Empire attacked Miracle City, offending the other empires was a small matter, but if they lost face for the empire, that would be a large matter. Jing Wuing directly said to the Big Dry Emperor, I asked the emperor to make a decision. The Big Dry Emperor was an emperor, how could he lack aggressiveness? Not to mention that the Big Dry Emperor didn't place an ant like Chu Tian in his eyes at all. 80,000 Golden Dragon Hawk Army, 100 illusory clam beasts, break the city in 10 days. This general obeys. Yuanshi gave a helpless sigh. The Big Dry Emperor was overbearing, perhaps he was looking down on Miracle City. The Golden Dragon Hawk Army was one of the Big Dry Empire's trump cards and was an elite force that swept across the Big Dry Empire. A single Golden Dragon Hawk was already not a weak level 3 demon beast. What kind of concept was a level 3 demon beast? This was equivalent to a true spirit cultivator. In a small kingdom, a true spirit cultivator was simply a peak existence. Even in a large kingdom, they had a respected position. Even in a warring kingdom, they could become high-level generals. An entire 80,000 Golden Dragon Hawks. This was equivalent to 80,000 true spirit cultivators. Each Golden Dragon Hawk would be accompanied by a true spirit cultivator. An army of 80,000 Golden Dragon Hawks was actually a battle strength of 160,000 true spirit cultivators. This was the background and power of a true empire-level power. It was enough to make any warring kingdom tremble in fear. This kind of army wasn't enough to deal with a loose forest alliance. Impossible. This was considered giving Miracle City enough face. The Big Dry Empire's Golden Dragon Hawk army only had 200,000. Even if Yuanshi had an objection, he couldn't say it. If the 80,000 Golden Dragon Hawk army couldn't break into Miracle City, it wouldn't be justified no matter what. The Big Dry Empire was very efficient. As soon as this order was given, Jing Wuing led his army out the next day. Other than Jing Wuing, who was a high-level Heaven Domain cultivator, there were also 18 Heaven Domain experts who weren't weak, being around the 2nd to 3rd Heaven Domain layer. There were also 100 illusory clam beasts. The illusory clam beast was a precious level 3 spiritual attributed demon beast. This kind of demon beast didn't have any battle strength, but it could create a large-scale mirage. It could cover the army and create illusions, interfering with most scouting methods. The Big Dry Empire's Golden Dragon Hawk army had this kind of powerful cover. It was enough to approach Miracle City without leaving a trace and launch a lightning-fast sneak attack. Although this idea was very good, the Big Dry Empire had underestimated Miracle City's abilities. Before the Golden Dragon Hawk army arrived in the Forest of Chaos, they had already been detected by Miracle City's air checkpoints. Miracle City's scouting method used the undead towers to detect life. This kind of detection method could directly detect life fluctuations, therefore spiritual illusions had no effect at all. The Southern Surveillance Station has detected a shocking amount and intensity of life fluctuations. Smart Brains Analysis. This could be a group of high-level demon beasts and cultivators. The demon beasts match the Golden Dragon Hawk army, and the Golden Dragon Hawk army is the Big Dry Empire's army, therefore there is a 99% chance that this army comes from the Big Dry Empire. There is a 99% chance that they are attacking Miracle City. Please prepare your defenses as soon as possible. Meng Qinggu was busy preparing for the Miracle City Summit, so she was shocked when she heard this news. The Big Dry Empire actually wanted to destroy Miracle City. Wasn't this method a little too overbearing and unyielding? Meng Qinggu quickly called Chu Tian over to discuss countermeasures. What kind of countermeasures could Chu Tian have? Since they dared to come. They dared to fight. Chu Tian was already unhappy. Because of the Big Dry Empire's shit stick, Chu Tian's wedding in West Sea City's Crystal Bay had to be postponed. He already had a stomach full of anger and now he finally found a place to vent it. Have the Elven King, Death Wing, Burst Claw, Thunder's Fury, Bo Sha, as well as all the Elven City Lords, Wyverns, Liches, Behemoths, Giants, and mere people above the Heaven Domain realm come to Miracle City. All Miracle City's weapon systems are on standby. All airships and fighter planes are to be withdrawn. Miracle City's barrier is being charged, prepare for the highest level of defense. Meng Qinggu knew that they couldn't escape this battle, so she immediately began to make arrangements. Miracle City's several super smart brains began to work at the same time. Not only were they preparing for the battle, they were also calculating the Golden Dragon Hawk Army's movements, speed, and tactics. Combining this with Miracle City's situation, they found the most suitable battle method. Miracle City was no longer the same as before. Meng Qinggu was a very cautious person, she knew that Miracle City was the foundation of the entire Miracle Group. Ever since the four cities joined forces to attack, Meng Qinggu had been investing more and more in defense and weapon research. Now they had spent several tens of millions of source stones. Because there had never been another battle against Miracle City, Meng Qinggu couldn't estimate Miracle City's defensive power, so now was a good chance to test it out. Miracle City could also use this chance to fight with the empires, becoming famous and shaking the world. This would heavily damage the Big Dry Empire's spirit, so those powers that relied on the Big Dry Empire to deal with Miracle City would have to reconsider. Chapter 603. The Golden Dragon Hawk Army had already arrived in the Forest of Chaos. They were very fast, but they were silent because there was a transparent barrier that the naked eye couldn't see. It was like a giant bubble had surrounded the entire army. From the ground, from the sky, or from any other angle. They couldn't even see the shadow of the Golden Dragon Hawk Army. The Draconic Eagle Beast was a type of raptor magical beast that possessed the bloodline of the Dragon Clan. Its wingspan was around 8 meters, and it looked like a combination of a dragon and an eagle. Not only was it astonishingly fast, it was also proficient in the secret techniques of the Dragon Clan. As such, it possessed extremely powerful combat abilities. Among them, the Golden Draconic Eagle was the most outstanding breed in the Draconic Eagle family. The backs of the Golden Dragon Hawks were very wide and each Golden Dragon Hawk had at least 3 people riding on it. The one at the front was wearing a Golden Knight armor, this was an official Dragon Hawk Knight with a true Spirit Realm cultivation. The others were holding bows to support them. Although they were just retainers, they were still elites of the army and their equipment was very good. The Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom had many armies, with several million soldiers in the 5 core armies and over 10 million soldiers in the country. They could casually invade a country with over 1 million soldiers. What was the use of numbers? Any 200 of them in the Golden Dragon Hawk Army were enough to easily defeat over 10,000 people from the Eagle Burial Kingdom. This was the difference between an empire and a warring kingdom. Most of the armies of the warring states were trained and used quickly. They had a large number of soldiers, but the quality was low. The foundation of the empire was incomparably deep. Therefore, every important legion of the empire was built up bit by bit through generations of accumulation. Therefore, the number of people in the main battle army of the empire was usually not that large, but if taken to the other kingdoms of the continent, it would definitely be an unimaginable force. A city like Miracle City was not even comparable to warring states. How could it resist the battle prowess of an empire? Jing Wuing felt that it was like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. Was there a need to send out such a large Golden Dragon Hawk army? It wasn't like they were attacking the Eternal Forest or the Dragon's Ridge, just 20-30,000 was enough to destroy Miracle City. Of course, a general didn't mind having too many soldiers. Miracle City had gone against the Big Dry Empire several times, and this time they had lost face for the Big Dry Empire. Their destruction would raise the prestige of the Big Dry Empire and teach the other blind powers a lesson. Your Majesty, the Martial King, we are about to reach Miracle City. Although Miracle City was a distance away from the army, with Jing Wuying's cultivation and abilities, he could already see Miracle City in the distance. With this speed, he would arrive in half an hour. Send the order. Jing Wuying raised his sword high up, directly attacked the city. There was no need to adjust it. The dragon hawk beast's endurance was very strong, it wouldn't affect its battle strength even if it flew for 10 days. In order to catch Miracle City off guard, Jing Wuying directly gave the order to attack. When Jing Wuying was preparing to attack Miracle City, he suddenly found that something was wrong. This was because at this time, large amounts of dots of light appeared in Miracle City's direction. These were tens of thousands of long-range missiles. Miracle City's rocket technology was very mature. These missiles were over 10 times the speed of sound, reaching 14-15 times the speed of sound. This was not something a true spirit cultivator could react to, and even a high-level heaven domain cultivator like Jing Wuying was shocked. Damn it! Miracle City weapons. We've been discovered. The expressions of the heaven domain generals all changed, they didn't know how they were discovered. Wasn't there the illusory clam beast protecting them? But now wasn't the time to be surprised, because from discovery to arrival, the speed was just too fast. The Golden Dragon Hawk army didn't have any protection, and with how large the army was, they didn't have time to dodge. Rocket after rocket penetrated into the ranks. The Golden Dragon Hawk army exploded in an instant. Miracle City's city lord Meng Qinggu spent several months, mobilized several 100,000 people, and spent countless resources to build large amounts of missile silos around Miracle City. These missiles were prepared with great effort over the past few months, and the energy within them could easily kill a true spirit cultivator. Because of the super smart brain's guidance, there was no chance of them missing. The Golden Dragon Hawk army suffered heavy losses. This was only the beginning. The army was slowed down by the missile bombardment. At this moment, there was movement in the sky. Like rain, countless bombs fell from the sky, landing right on top of the Golden Dragon Hawk army. What was even more strange was that none of these bombs passed through the army and exploded in the forest. They all detonated in mid-air. The Golden Dragon Hawk army was not prepared at all and suddenly suffered this kind of intense bombardment. Although the Golden Dragon Hawk army were all experts, they still couldn't withstand this kind of intense attack. In just a few short minutes, they had lost several thousand battle strength. This was a large loss to the Big Dry Empire. Jing Wuying never thought that before the battle even began and before he could launch a sneak attack on Miracle City would launch a sneak attack first. In his rage, he recklessly roared out, "Attack with full force! Attack with full force!" The Golden Dragon Hawk army were the elites of the empire. Although they suffered a heavy setback, when they saw Jing Wuying leading the vanguard to move, they immediately knew they had to increase their attacks. Therefore, they resisted the concentrated attacks and charged in the direction of Miracle City. There was no need to pretend now. The illusory clam beast released its power and the Golden Dragon Hawk's projection filled the sky. This was also one of the illusory clam beast's illusion abilities. The illusions they created could be passed off as real. Not only did they have the same sound and smell, they could even move. They could even create physical collisions, energy attacks, and illusions of destruction. Scatter. The Golden Dragon Hawk Knights scattered, avoiding the concentrated bombardment of the missiles. They could hide into the illusions in the sky, making it hard for Miracle City's people to find them. Miracle City stopped firing the missiles. Was it effective? Miracle City suddenly shot out thousands of beams of light. These were source energy cannons, giant source energy cannons. When miracle commerce was still in southern Xia in the past, whether it was the technology or the materials, they could already create weapons that could kill true spirit cultivators. Miracle City's weapon technology had not only increased by leaps and bounds in a year, the resources, materials, and research were all unimaginable in the past. Not to mention true spirit cultivators, even low-level heaven domain cultivators wouldn't be able to bear the consequences of being hit by these cannons. The most terrifying thing was that other than the normal source energy cannons, there were also beams of light shooting out from the mountains in the direction of Miracle City. These beams of light had a range several times that of the normal source energy cannons, and their accuracy was very shocking. Each time they appeared, they would kill an illusory clam beast. When a large group of Dragon Hawk Knights passed by, these high-energy beams didn't scatter in the air and actually slashed out like giant swords, instantly causing large amounts of casualties to the Golden Dragon Hawks. What is this now? Jing Wuing was completely stunned. Miracle City's missiles were still a bit prepared, but the weapons Miracle City was using now were simply unheard of. Not to mention the Big Dry Empire's people, even Miracle Commerce's people didn't know about the existence of these weapons. In order to strengthen Miracle City's defenses, Meng Qinggu chose several mountains to modify, finally creating these powerful source energy laser cannons. This weapon was different from normal source energy cannons. Normal source energy cannons gathered energy and shot it out in a single breath, forming a highly compressed energy shell to kill enemies. The source energy laser cannons were built on the mountain peaks and the entire mountain was turned into an energy source, so this weapon could continuously release energy at a high frequency, forming a laser-like effect. This new weapon not only had a shocking attack range, speed, and accuracy. It could form a continuous laser beam that could be used to cut through large targets or sweep through large areas of enemies. Several dozen source energy laser cannons fired at the same time and several dozen beams of light danced in the air. Because of the smart brain's control, it was impossible for them to be tricked by the illusory clam beasts. They first killed the illusory clam beasts of the Golden Dragon Hawk army before killing the Golden Dragon Hawks. The source energy laser was too strong. The Golden Dragon Hawks that were swept by it instantly turned to ash or even evaporated. Charge over! Charge over! The Golden Dragon Hawk army was already filled with hysteria. The Golden Dragon Hawk army hadn't even reached Miracle City and they had already lost 10-20,000 people. Who wouldn't have thought that Miracle City's defenses would be this strong? But the Golden Dragon Hawk army was worthy of being an elite army. Even after suffering such a heavy setback, they still didn't retreat and kept approaching Miracle City. Finally paying a large price, the Golden Dragon Hawks passed through the source energy laser cannons. Miracle City shouldn't have any other methods now, right? If they didn't use these heavy weapons, what could Miracle City use to resist the Golden Dragon Hawk army? Now that the Golden Dragon Hawk army had entered Miracle City's range, Miracle City couldn't just randomly bombard the city, right? Unless they took things too hard and wanted to perish together. The Big Dry Empire's people guessed correctly this time. Meng Qinggu didn't think about using the powerful missiles or the dangerous laser cannons above Miracle City. After all, these weapons were too strong and they could destroy the city if they weren't careful. At this time, a black city protecting barrier appeared around Miracle City. A city protecting barrier? Jing Wuying's eyes turned blood red. You think this kind of strong city protecting barrier can stop the Big Dry Empire's army? Almost at the same time, in the center of Miracle City, two giant ships slowly rose up. These two giant ships were completely made of metal and each ship was over 800 meters long. They looked like warships and were covered in firing ports and cannons, giving people a very fierce feeling. What is this? When Jing Wuying saw the two giant ships in the air, his expression froze. Over 100 Black Thunder fighters charged out of the giant ships at this time and behind each Black Thunder fighter were several thousand strange figures. These people were all wearing strange mecha suits and they were all flying in the air. This was Miracle City's flying army. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.